Why can't you can you do something else while you're waiting for the minutes to be approved?
I know.
We could have public comment if, should we begin the meeting and begin the public
That's a
comment?
good idea. I like that idea.
All right, we'll give you 10 minutes or until Karen comes back, so 10 minutes. Is there anybody who'd like to make public comment? First, I'd like to convene the meeting. Mark is coming, he's on his way. And I will take minutes until Karen returns.
Is it just the agenda, Wendy? I could put it up there.
No, it's the minutes. The minutes containing the comments that we've submitted, as well as her compilation. Taking those comments.
It's 25 pages.
It's 25 pages.
I have a hard copy if that would give anybody.
We've got 9 people, and
I mean, what do we need from this other than to make a decision?
we need the list. We have to have that all in front of us because we're going to be going through that itemized list that she distilled from all of our submitted lists, and we will be going through that to finalize our recommendations. So, any other pre-comments before we go to public comment? Okay. Anybody? Mr. Gazowski.
I sent you all an email today, which I would like to read into the record and have posted if that's possible. Congratulations on reaching a decision to recommend option 1 to the DPW as the method which will deal with Northampton's trash during the transition period while the landfill closes. Making this decision has been a long and frustrating process due to the multiple variables and the extremely complex process of disposing of municipal solid waste. For those of you who have not been keeping track, this recommendation took 9 meetings, 2 public forums, and 1 hour and 15 minutes to reach. All right. What is disturbing is the number of recommendations which were proposed in the last 34 minutes of the March 21st meeting, with no research or in-depth discussion of their ramifications. For example, are you aware that there have been 2 solid waste task force committees prior to yours which considered the switch from stickers to bags? Both decided to stick with stickers. Do you know that a sticker costs 1 cent and returns $1.99 to the enterprise fund, while a $2 bag only returns $1.72 to this fund? Are you aware that there are upfront costs to a bag program which can amount to $40,000 or more? I seriously doubt that a recommendation to switch to a bag program can or should be made in less than 34 minutes. A comprehensive recycling education program, along with most of the other recommendations made during the final minutes of your last meeting, have been on the table for years and have received little or no attention. If no action was taken when there were personnel and a robust solid waste enterprise fund, how can we expect to see any attention and funding given to these recommendations now that the revenue stream from the landfill is disappearing? At this late stage in your timeline, I feel the only way you can deal with additional trash-related issues is to recommend that they require further study from this or another committee. Thanks for your time and attention on this matter. I'd also like to add that most of what has been done with this committee has been directed to those people who take part in the do-it-yourself, pay-as-you-throw trash program. Very little has been done to try to encourage recycling, resource use, and trash reduction at places like the Housing Authority. Those are included in our housing units, at condominium units like Wendy's, all right, and others. And it doesn't really affect those people who have private subscription. So I realize that you've done a lot of work. I appreciate that, and I know I've been a thorn in your side. All right, but as far as all of these last-minute recommendations being sent to the DPW, I think that's a lot of haste and not much quality. And if you don't have a copy printed out, I'll give you one.
Are there other comments from the public? Please, we need to hear from you.
You do?
Well,
I don't think some of you want to, especially the BPW members, because I don't think it's going to be a 5-to-1 decision percentage-wise, when it gets to them, after being to one BPW meeting, I believe they're gonna be all in lockstep. And like I said before at the last meeting, this side voted against one, and this side basically, except for Michael, voted for one. And I think the BPW will be all voting for number 4, because they can't see what the public wants, they can't see past the dollar sign. Even if I have to pay a little extra, I don't mind. The mayor says break even, well, I don't care what she says. She's a lame duck anyways. But to pay a little more would be fine if we have a system that the people like. Getting back to a few comments that are not correct by Rose and backed up by David. About 6,000 people take their stuff to the dump, and implying that there'll be 6,000 trips. I don't know if you said a month or a week or whatever, but that's bogus. And you contradicted yourself by saying you don't go that often, every 2 months. So there won't be 6,000 trips per month or whatever it is, even a month. And the fact that you call 6,000 trips more environmentally bad, well, do you think most of the people only take one trip back and forth to the transfer station? They don't go get milk, they don't take their kids here, do that? That's environmentally good. I think most people in Northampton do that. They combine all their errands because it makes common sense and it makes economical sense. And their time sense. They don't have time to do that. So that's totally misleading because of your opinions that aren't correct. They're not fact. What you should look into before you start espousing and have other people thinking that
I just want to remind you of the
that's a way.
guidelines to be civil in your,
I'm civil.
okay.
You should see me when I'm not. I'm on my medication, so I'll be civil. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't be civil. So you're talking to me, am I
No,
over
I'm
my
just
time?
asking you not to single
Do you think
out.
I'm single out? I'm referring to comments that were made by people. You know, you guys don't talk back to us, and I don't know why you should. You, because I think I was civil.
Continue with what you're saying.
Well, I'm done with picking on people if we're not correct. But I back up everything that this gentleman says here. I didn't get any meetings last year at all, but I don't think anyone needed to. I think it was all a waste of time. You guys as a whole didn't really have a grasp on what you were doing. Mostly you took your information from the BPW and Dantech or Stantec, whoever, you know, and that was a big waste of time. Similar to the school department hiring a consultant. You can see where that gets us. And the people on the city council that go along with consultants just because they are consultants or somebody in supposed an expert field. It doesn't mean that they're correct all the time. They're in it to make money to do that report. And you think it takes somebody to pick a superintendent?
We're here for,
Well, it's the same thing. You're picking something that has to do with information. It's not rocket science to do what the BPW suggests. Half of them on there probably don't have a clue about the things that go on exactly with the landfill and the money of it. From what I saw from one meeting, a lot of them don't even pay attention or know what's going on with what they're voting on. A contract of $900,000 and they don't have a clue, they never read it. And the thing we're talking up about $25 million to spend on the DPW, well, it's all the same stuff. But you guys got snagged into it of all kinds of information, and I think that's just to confuse you. But some of us aren't so easily confused, that have easy common sense and know what to do with practical things. This isn't writing a composition. This isn't surgery, and I'm neither. But I am very practical. If you gave me this problem, me and about 5 other people could have come up with something and got the public invited earlier to have their opinion. The BPW people here just completely ignored the people, along with this guy over here from Green and Market Street. Have no clue. People want to have the same thing. Not because they don't want to change, because it works and they like it. So charge me an extra $3, $4 a bag.
Just for the sake of staying on time for the agenda tonight, we're at the 10-minute mark for the public comment.
But you were late. You can't
Yeah,
say
I
anything.
apologize.
Yeah, you should have been here to listen to his thing.
I apologize.
Yeah, you should
But
apologize.
just to reiterate that last week, we did in fact vote to recommend option 1. That option 1.
But you didn't hear what he had to say. Have him read it again.
We
I
got
have-
it in the mail, he
I got the
emailed us
email.
all.
Okay.
Did you reread your email?
But do you get the point?
Yep. I appreciate it.
So you voted on it doesn't mean anything, because it's going to a board that's made up their
I got
mind.
the point in the email.
They've made up their minds.
I appreciate both your.
Yeah, well, they don't, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Counselor Casey?
Not to go up there. First off, I want to thank everybody for all the time they put into this. I know it's been huge, and it's been trying at times, and I don't envy you, but thank you very much for your time. But I just want to say quickly, the vast majority of the people in Ward 7, and I've gotten, just in the last week, it's tremendous, the emails that are all for option 1 and no mandatory curbside. They also, in the emails, they happen to throw in there, as a matter of, they just don't want stickers, they'd like bags. They don't want to be told where they have to go and buy their bags. They like the idea of the stickers. It's huge. I mean, it is so lopsided for option 1, and they have all said that they did not mind paying extra money per bag because they liked the convenience. They liked the Locust Street and Glendale Road. They liked everything about it. So I just for Ward 7, I just need to speak on their behalf that they're all for option 1, and nobody wants to be told where to buy their bags, and they like the stickers, and they do not like mandatory curbside pickup. Thank you very much for your time.
Other comments? Otherwise, thank you.
Can I ask if there's extra copies of the agenda? Oh, thanks, Joe.
Does people feel prepared to accept the minutes of the last meeting? You had a chance to review them. They've just been distributed all the way around the website today.
And I thought they were emailed out.
And your pen is difficult. I've read them, I actually did some editing of them. Can you give me some indication whether you feel comfortable? Would you like to read them right now? Is this your first chance reading them? Did anybody take them off the website?
I heard them today.
So you've seen them, I've seen them.
I've seen them on the website.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve?
I have a comment.
Well, first the motion,
I move we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
second.
One small,
Okay, David, a second.
Oh.
Discussion? David starts.
sorry.
Discussion? Go ahead, Mark.
One small correction on page 5, third paragraph. Starting with M. Carney. I believe that I said could, the recommendation could be for option 1, not should be. I think that's a word. Oh, I'm on wrong copy? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's been corrected.
Oh, it's on the website? Okay.
Are there any other comments? Dave?
Did David Norkowitz get into the being present on the committee board members present? He's not present. And for review and acceptance of the minutes of 3:14, I don't think you were here, Tara? Is that correct?
314. No, I think I was here,
We
but,
were here for that
Yes.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Terry wasn't here last time, you can't vote on these things.
Right. I missed last one, but not the previous one.
Okay. Mary Ann?
Yes, also, the third next to the last paragraph,
What page are you on?
okay, on page 5.
Okay.
When I asked Karen in regards to how much the bags would cost, she said the same as the stickers, which was $2. And then I asked her where the bags could be bought. And you did say, Karen, wasn't it Stop and Shop? And what else did you say?
I said 25 retailers with only one that said no.
2, because you said the hardware store in Florence, and you also said Foster Care.
No, just said
Foster
Foster.
Care.
I said the hardware store in Florence.
So he said that. I didn't get that. Do you want me to add that in?
And I think I said that was 6 years ago, that survey done, that we may increase that number this time around, or those two places.
I think she just recently, didn't you, Karen?
No, I was referring to the
From way
last.
back?
Yes.
So,
That was quite a long time.
right, 6, 7. Yeah, that could be a different number today.
Plus, the fact is, I did question Costco's and BJ's, and BJ's is not on there.
When you said local, within Northampton City.
Where's the, on page 3, the very last sentence of the discussion about pay as you go, it says, I noted that using bag stickers and encourage that program is rare. I don't think that's quite what I said.
Well,
I think I said that there's a few communities that do it, but, and some have moved to it and away from it. So, it's fine.
actually, I had to review the video
Okay,
for this,
so
so
maybe it's
I think
fine.
you did use.
I think I mentioned there are a couple of
Yeah.
communities, so that's fine, that captures it.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Say aye. Opposed? And Terry is abstaining, he wasn't there. All right. Mark, do you want to?
Review of recommendations agreed to last week. About 10 minutes. Just to review, we don't need even 10 minutes on this. If anybody's wanting to review what we, just for the record, I guess, we recommended to have, to recommend option 1 to the Board of Public Works for collection. We agreed to recommend that we move from stickers to bags. We recommended to expand, we voted to recommend to expand the program at that was done originally at the Jackson Street School.
Just follow the minutes.
It seems like I have different minutes of it. And then we voted to approve to recommend the establishment of a youth center. And I believe that was all that was approved, those 4 items.
There's also,
Oh, and then the compost. We voted to approve, to recommend to continue the food waste collection program pilot, and if viable, to expand it to include both transfer stations. 5 recommendations are done. So, option 1, stickers, bags over stickers, establishment of a reuse center, expanding Jackson Street educational program to include all those schools, and expanding the collection of compost to include both transportation. How did I do?
Well, I just wanted to say that I know that that these are recommendations that will go to the Board of Public Works. We're not saying that anything's set in stone. For the bags, you know, one of the reasons why I support the bags is because, to me, when someone's going to throw something away and they're looking at that bag in their garbage, they're much more aware of what they're throwing away and thinking about it rather than having to just take their big bag to the landfill and stick a sticker on it. And the purpose behind the bags, in my opinion, is to try to reduce waste, not about putting money into the solid waste enterprise fund or not about, it's about trying to come up with a solution that helps to reduce. And the statistics that have been shown are that using bags do reduce and do increase recycling. So the purpose is not to sit there and, the numbers will be created by the Board of Public Works and the staff of the DPW to look at how much it'll cost, but that's, I'm not to give my reasoning for it, but that's just one of the main things. It's more about trying to reduce waste rather than trying to figure out a way to make a profit, in my opinion. And I did like the idea of, if it's possible, to do advertising on them, because I thought that that might be a revenue stream that we're not aware of, so.
I think when we go down the listing of voting on recommendations, that's in there.
Yeah, but I mean, I just, in reviewing it, I know that a few things have been brought up in public comment, and I just wanted to reiterate, and I've gotten calls and emails about people who are very affectionate with stickers, and I just wanted to say that, you know, there's a lot of different reasons, but one of it is just because I personally think when you go to throw it out, if you're actually looking at that bag, you might think, you know what, that's something I can put somewhere else. That's my reasoning.
I'm still a little hesitant about buying bags in Stop and Shop or wherever you're going to be buying them, because I haven't been told, or the public hasn't been told, what is the cost of the bags going to cost the city versus the stickers. Okay, so right now I'm a little hesitant about even supporting the bags because it's not clear to me, it's not clear to the public, and I have gotten many emails and I've got tons of calls and people coming to my home feeling that the stickers is the way to go. And I just want to clarify something about the stickers. When we're hearing about the money has been a big problem for a long time. And Karen, I know if you can recall, many meetings that we had about the money at the landfill, and as a counselor, I asked you to somehow find a way of collecting that money at the landfill so that the gatekeepers did not have to bring it at home. And I think the common way of doing it would have been you going there or somebody going there at the end of the shift, picking up the money and depositing it. It would have solved the problem. And I'm not talking about 2 years, I'm talking over 9 years that this was a huge problem and it was never resolved. So I'm having a problem about the bags, making people go into a store. And to me, it's promoting businesses and stores, and that's not what the city is all about. Okay, our job is to make revenue in that landfill, but you're actually forcing people to go into a store, because they're not going to just buy a bag, they're going to go in through those doors and look at things and buy. So I think there needs to be more input coming in from the residents throughout the city, hopefully with the Board of Public Works, to initiate a huge open public hearing on the stickers and the bags.
I want to comment, and I'm sorry, somebody made a comment. A couple things on that, and then I would like to move on. We have such a huge agenda in front of us with so many recommendations to go through, but unless somebody else wants to, I don't want to. The details on how the bags will be bought have yet to be worked out. It doesn't have to be just stores. They could also be perhaps done at the neighborhood schools. They could perhaps be done at City Hall. They could perhaps be done at the DPW office.
Or the landfill.
Or the transfer stations. Those details haven't been worked out where people can buy the bag. They don't have to be just at the stores, and so we can avoid that seeming conflict. I agree that that gets to be a little sticky wicket when you're promoting. The numbers have been given to us, projected numbers given to us in Table 3 pretty clearly of what the bags will cost, projected, estimated cost, and that is $2 per bag. And that's where the numbers are coming from that are listed in Table 5 that Mimi brought up, or Table 4, that was Table 5?
I think it was Table 4.
Table 4 that Mimi brought up last meeting very astutely, that it is $2 per bag. And those are projected, those are estimated numbers that we get to how we get to those, how we get to that $111,000 surplus using option 1. Based on a $75 permit fee to get through the gates, and then $2 per bag. My meaning on this is, right now people are buying their bags certainly for 10 or 15 cents each, but then they're spending $2 for a sticker to get rid of the bag in the transfer station. So in essence, they're spending $2.15 per bag to get rid of their bag of trash. They're spending 15 cents on the bag and $2 for a sticker. And now it's costing them $2.15 to get rid of the bag, as opposed to $2 per bag. I also love the idea of an official Northampton bag in 3 sizes, but perhaps that's a detail that the DPW will work out. But 3-size bags to allow for low volume producers, and advertising on the bag makes a lot of sense as a revenue stream. Any other comments on past recommendations? Items. Review of recommendations, 332. Are we going forward?
Yes.
Okay, agenda
Are
number.
we ready? I was just asking. Are we ready to move on to item 4 on the agenda? Listing and voting on other recommendations. So the paper that's headed Summary of Task Force Decisions and Recommendations. Karen, as she promised, put our submitted and or verbalized comments from last meeting into kind of an organized fashion, and indicated how many comments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, spoke to those issues. So I think what we agreed to last time was to go through these and each all of these, and that's what we're scheduled to do tonight, unless somebody has another proposal for going to Mark.
I would like to keep our focus tonight on recommendations that we haven't talked about yet. We have such limited time that if we revisit votes that we took last week, we could be here all night for additional meetings and not get to all these, some of these great recommendations. And so that's my hope, is that we don't open up last week's votes, that we don't revisit last week's votes. We have those 5 items that we've agreed to. Option 1, expand Jackson Street, expand compost, go to bags, and open a reuse center. So we have a huge list otherwise. So if we can skip over those items and not revisit them, that would make a lot of sense. People agree.
Just a point of order, Madam Chairman. Are you going to try to reach consensus with all these, or just sort of do bullets or a vote?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good question. I was thinking we would go through them all and we would vote. I think we agreed when it came down to the nitty-gritty, we would vote.
I mean, they're only recommendations, so that might make sense.
Right. See, he's nodding. Should we vote on whether to vote?
I also want to make a comment about answering to public comment. Many of us have done a whole lot of research. Some of us, myself included, probably had a huge, steep learning curve on this issue. I think I made that pretty clear, that I came at this as a concerned citizen about illegal dumping that was happening on Turkey Hill Road. And so that's where I was coming from, but my learning curve on this was very steep. I not only read the Stantec report 3 times, but I also called a lot of different transfer stations. I also was in San Francisco last October when I knew I was going to be on this task force and investigated that. Talking with people all over the place, including talking to attendants, gatekeepers at the transfer stations on what they would like to see. And did a lot of research online. So a lot of these recommendations are informed recommendations. I think a lot of us did that background check over and above discussions at our weekly meetings.
I was just wondering if we could sort of maybe put weight on certain things that we really like. For example, I think that it's been communicated through this task force that we really would like to see a reuse type center, that it's a top priority. And I think that when it gets sent to the mayor's office, and there's only going to be so much money of what can be done or what can't, that we would say, this is what we see as a top priority. Because I just kind of want to make sure that, there's a lot of pie in the sky dreams we can all have of what we'd like to see, but eventually it has to be put into some sort of manageable and a list you can check off you can do, but I'd like us to somehow weight it with that.
How would we do that?
I don't know, once we decide on what we support, maybe we can go through and prioritize them, and how we'd like to see what we see as the first priority.
Well, some of it's already weighted. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There are, so Karen compiled a list here, and you can see a lot of them have ones next to it. I think there could have been, I could see some things where could have been a little bit, some more consolidation perhaps, but there were a number of things that have 5, 4s, and 3s, and perhaps we should look at those first.
There's one that has 9.
The one that has 9.
That'll be.
So maybe we should look at those items and, go through those. But Rose, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, if we got finished, we could each have I mean, if this were done in a different style, you'd have, one option would be to list them all, each of us get 10 buttons and be able to put our buttons where we mostly wanted. If we wanted to put 10 buttons on one item, or spread them out however. So I mean, something that could be done subsequent to this meeting if we wanted to, in terms of the priority, because I think that's the point. So, but I'll leave that to you guys to decide.
I agree. Without buttons. So, how about if we just go through and call out those? I'll look through and we'll see those that have the more than 3 votes. How's that? Does that make sense? And then we'll go back again and see. Just starting at the beginning of the list, what?
Can I just say, on the first page, page 7, first page, page 7, under option 4, I mean, can we not revisit this since these are items that have already been decided? And then we can pick out those about, I don't know if that can be combined, but just rather than things that talk about recommending establishing a review center, we've already.
So you're suggesting
that's what I'm saying.
not revisiting creating an RFP.
Right.
You're saying
and
that.
not revisiting, not voting on creating a reuse center again. We already voted on that. There's several recommendations that we've already voted on. Okay. Is that okay? So with that, I count 74.
Go through this.
I count 74 recommendations, but some of those are duplicates from last week. And so if we just go through this.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we voted to keep the current system of collecting trash, recycling, yard waste, and hard-to-manage waste with 2 transfer stations open. That was the vote of last week. The next, where there's multiple numbers, is the opposite of that. We didn't vote to do that, so I don't see that we should be looking at that, which is to go to curbside, all right? So I'm putting that aside. what I'm gonna start to do is 3, 4s, and 5s.
So again, under the collection system, I feel like we're not gonna go through any of the other sub-recommendations there. We'll go back.
We'll go back.
Okay.
We'll do rounds. I'll go to things that have 3, 4, or 5 weights next to them that don't contradict our basic recommendations that we've made so far. And then we'll go back again. Is that okay? Does that make sense?
Let's start and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
It'll probably,
All right. So under recycling collection on page 8, there is change to single stream recycling. Got 3 votes. I'm just going to call these out now, and I don't know if we want to take action right now or simply acknowledge them and then go back.
Let's vote on them, I think. Do you want to vote?
Can we just get some, or just ask a question about that, which is, so.
Right.
We
Right.
didn't have the ability to make
Well, the
it.
MRF,
Right.
I just
I
was
know, I
curious,
don't have
like,
that
the
ability
MRF,
to make it.
the MRF is
Right,
moving in
it's
that
right.
direction, but do we know, like, when that's, I mean?
No, but yes, it is moving in that direction, it's not there yet.
So-
it's driven by our market.
So that we don't have.
Well, there's Chicopee, Springfield now is single stream. When they get a certain population, a certain amount of single stream stuff coming in, they'll may make a conversion. Pittsfield was talking about going single stream. That, once that opens up, then you have a decision you can make. At this point, my opinion would be premature to make a decision.
One other thing is that the contract goes to 2015, and the MRF Advisory Board has been told that the facility probably will go single stream.
But we don't know that. It's a possibility.
So is it irrelevant?
Yes,
Well,
that's
what I'm wondering is if somebody one of the 3 people who proposed this would want to reword that recommendation to be one that is palpable or is feasible, such as explore, or when it becomes feasible at MRF, that we move to.
But once, because once Mark says it's single stream, then it's single stream. We can still
Oh.
separate, but it doesn't matter because it'll get there and be single stream.
That's the only.
It's really a thing that's out of our control.
It's irrelevant because we're not going curbside, right?
Exactly.
Well, you can do curbside, or you could do single stream in a transfer station.
Yeah.
Dropbox. And just-
Yes.
David?
I don't think we have to make a recommendation here. I mean, over the months that we've been discussing this, I've come out in favor of single stream and I've come out in favor of dual stream. So, and that's an indication of the fact that there are many arguments for both sides. And as Dick Gazowski says, there are just some things that we just haven't had enough time. And I don't know if we would ever have enough time for this. I think the DPW will take this into great consideration. I'm not sure we need to make a recommendation at this point.
So unless there's another desire to explore this further, we're setting aside this recommendation at this time, okay? All right. Pay-as-you-throw, 8 votes, 8 to implement a pay-as-you-throw bag system.
We already did that.
Oh, sorry, I'm just, okay, I'm calling them out. And then the other one that we had already, the composting programs. Or is that exploring the potential slightly different? For local farms, community gardens, existing compost, is that different enough from what we said, or is that consistent with what we've already voted?
It's different. I was one of the 3 who raised that, and I'm going to withdraw that recommendation down to 2 then, simply because we
Right.
voted on
Permitting.
collecting only and the knowledge of the permitting aspect. There were 2 other people though who had that.
I think I might have been one. I'll also withdraw. Okay, so that's set aside.
No action.
Reuse center. Create greater opportunities for the reuse of goods, establish a reuse resource recovery center swap shop.
We voted on it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just calling it out, okay. Just, you never know. All right, page 9, top of 9.3. Explore opportunities for legally restricting unnecessary packaging with municipal solid waste bans, write an ordinance for city council and or Board of Public Health, Board of Health. I would like to do public health. Approval to ban non-recyclable, non-reusable containers, that is styrofoam, dark plastic takeout containers, plastic bags, styrofoams twice, etc., from being used in city restaurants and stores.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great idea to do those things. However, I don't know what legal ramifications are from doing that. I know that there's been a pushback in some communities, I think, that have tried to do the ban the plastic bags, and the manufacturers and whomever come out against it.
But-
Well, and the other thing too is, I mean, like, I just don't know what the, I don't understand what the legal ramifications are, but that would be something that we would be making a recommendation to city council to do rather than to the Board of Public Works. Did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to say that if our main concern is zero waste and getting our solid waste stream as low as possible, this seems like a really viable and important part of that process. So I would say, yes, there may be legal ramifications, but let's let the Board of Public Works or the City Council worry about that. What our charge is to figure out how to get our waste stream to be as low as possible. And so I feel this is an important part of the program that we're recommending.
It does say explore opportunities for people. I mean, there's a couple communities that have put these in place, like most in other states. I don't know how successful, but Massachusetts. Because Cambridge has I think Cambridge may have a takeout ban on styrofoam. So there have been a few communities that have done it. The plastic bag ban is a little bit tougher, which is why the next item about EPR is really not the way most states are pursuing it, which is to do it on a statewide level and have statewide laws and have the DEP be able to actually step in and put restrictions on things like that. So I'm comfortable with both.
Mark, and then
I think that, as David said, this is a great opportunity for this task force to distinguish itself and to begin the ball rolling. This is a recommendation to the DPW to explore and explore through the City Council, DPW, and perhaps Board of Health to explore beginning this process. I would love to see Northampton be the first town in Massachusetts to have an outright ban on styrofoam or plastic bags, although it sounds like Cambridge beat us to that distinction. But why not have Northampton be the first town in Massachusetts with that distinction? Certainly it can be done. We're not reinventing the wheel. This has been done in other communities. There will be pushback, no doubt, from the restaurants and takeout places. But I predict that, well, regardless, feasibility of the implementation is something we should let the DPW or City Council work out. Not to say we should do complete pie in the sky or unfeasible recommendations, but why not distinguish ourselves with at least a recommendation to explore.
Well, I just wanted to comment that my initial instinct is almost always to not try and over-legislate things, and just because I think there's a pushback from people for that. And I was kind of thinking that maybe it could even just be something similar to the living wage that's done by the city, that people who embrace it or recognize, maybe it'd be something where businesses could, we could start with something like that, you know, like again, incrementally doing something, and hopefully that businesses would then adopt it as a practice because it's important for the city, rather than jumping to the legislative answer, is sort of what I'm thinking, because it'd be nice to sort of say, these businesses use this takeout, they've said no to styrofoam, and then when you go to shop as a consumer, you can say, that's important to me, I'll choose that.
like a local hero campaign.
Exactly.
Do you want to add that to this?
I think I would like to add that.
If I could just suggest, it seems to me that many of the things you're saying in this next section of vague zero waste policy, maybe that's in here, but I didn't see it. And it seems like that would be a step that many communities are taking, or some communities are taking, is to adopt a zero waste policy, which is a movement toward a concept. So that's the ultimate waste reduction thing. And though I don't see it anywhere on the list, it might be something you would embrace as a committee.
Is that the zero garbage plan?
Yeah.
Is that the same
Is
thing?
that what it
right,
is?
right above it. It
Oh, I'm
says
sorry.
zero garbage.
Zero waste, yeah, I'm sorry. didn't ring that way. Yeah, zero waste is a thing that's really coming into itself.
There's a lot of elements of that recommendation.
Yes, but it's not said as such, and I
Right
think
above it.
under that, that would be the umbrella for all of the above that you're talking about.
I think it's a good point, Arlen.
Would you like to say more about that?
Well, as I said before, I feel like part of our charge is to figure out how to minimize our waste stream. And I'm making a recommendation to the DPW to make Northampton a zero waste programized municipality, I think, is exactly the message that we want to send to the DPW. That's part of what's so important is minimizing the cost to the city of Northampton by minimizing the amount of waste that we're going to need to send outside of the city of Northampton. So, so that would be my recommendation.
That's not just what I'm talking about. To become a zero waste, to adopt a policy of zero waste embraces the product stewardship, embraces plastic bags, embraces styrofoam, embraces pay as you throw, embraces these concepts in general that you're speaking of. Not just that.
Well,
Just a thought.
well, we have a recommendation in front of us that 3 people put forward last meeting. I guess I would like to ask for a vote on this recommendation specifically, and I think we want to get back to the recommendation above it. That is a more umbrella recommendation, but the specific one is a very specific recommendation around non-recyclables and styrofoam.
Does let's say, for example, that we vote to explore opportunities for legally restricting unnecessary packaging, blah, blah, blah. Does that mean the other recommendations then fall away? So what does the vote signify?
What do you mean other recommendations?
Well, are we winnowing down the list below each heading? In other words, if we...
We're prioritizing.
So,
Yes.
so...
We are winnowing and
Are we
prioritizing.
taking this little paragraph and moving it up to the top of the list under waste prevention by this vote? Or do the other little bullet points go away? Or I'm just trying to understand what we're voting.
Okay. We're first looking at those recommendations that came in last week that had multiple.
But that's
people
done. Now what are we doing? Are we editing
No,
the
we're doing
list,
that
or
still.
are we-
We're still doing that.
We did the 5 things, and these are additional things that came in
Well,
written
first-
statements, but we didn't vote on last week.
So what does the 3 indicate?
The 3 people in their submitted
Voted for it.
remarks.
Oh,
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay.
3 people
Commented
recommended
on.
this
I understand, okay.
as a recommendation. These are consolidated, this is a consolidated master list of all the recommendations that came in.
Including yours.
Donna, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, it seems that we might want to put, I would probably say that our recommendation would be to rewrite the whole section on waste prevention, resource reduction, to say something that we would want the Department of Public Works to move towards adopting a zero waste plan that included the following things. That seems that it would be a better summary.
I was gonna actually say almost something very similar to that, because I don't wanna, I think what Terry is getting toward is like, we're gonna throw the baby out with the bath. Let's just incorporate what we can in this.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we still have 50% of the residents in this group who are going to be using private haulers. So it seems that we're getting a little ahead of ourselves in terms of making recommendations about adopting some of the other specifics here, if we're not even looking at that other portion of our population.
So maybe it makes sense to do an umbrella recommendation for all of these
That's what you said.
pieces. Yep.
Well, but Donna, we'll have an opportunity to address even those people that continue to use private haulers, whether it's through education in the schools, through the municipality deciding that this is important enough to do educational and promotional campaigns citywide. So, so I don't feel like we're losing half of our audience.
And BPW or PPH.
That's true.
Would you like to make a motion
Yeah,
based on
could you
that
reiterate
proposal?
that? Motion
I
that you
would like
just-
to rewrite the section on waste prevention and source reduction to be, that we would like to see the Department of Public Works move towards adopting a zero waste plan that included,
You want to just hit the bullets?
well,
Number.
I mean, the first bullet is to institute a curbside pickup program with social
Yeah.
So,
Everything excluding that.
well, my feeling at the last meeting was that there was some support for, in the future, moving towards a pay-as-you-throw curbside pickup. But that seems to be, are we just passing on that? And
I would like to pass on.
then we'll just leave that one off and move towards, moving to adopting a zero waste plan.
Well, that's what you, that's the
Right.
fact, you know,
Which
yeah.
And so the points would include explore opportunities to restrict unnecessary packaging.
It's sort of two bullets there. Ban non-recyclable, non-reusable containers.
Do you want to go on to the other items that we've got under that category?
I would just say, as part of it, just include all of those bullet points below it, the zero
You
garbage.
did say that was going to be rewritten, so at least.
But that's, I mean, I think that's a better heading
Yeah.
for it. And
And we just took care of.
I would second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? Basically, we follow what the motion was? Okay. You've got that, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Did we have unanimous?
Do we, so all those opposed? Abstain?
We have a consensus.
All right, the next thing I see is not, I don't see anything with more than 2 on this page 9, but on page 10, I'm sorry, yeah. Stop me if I'm rushing along. I'm sure the people in the audience don't think I'm rushing along. Page 10, the pedal people. We had unanimity on this, accommodate this service or find a solution that would allow pedal people to continue operating.
I think that was in the context of.
Of the 5?
Yes.
Okay.
By keeping transfer stations open.
I don't think we have that.
What this reflects is that every comment that I received mentioned the support for that. So it was just one way or another.
It wasn't a recommendation specific, it was
Right.
more just a comment.
There was
Support.
some kind of
Would
support
someone-
for
Would
the
someone,
pet.
should we'd like to just make a motion, make a clear motion?
How would it be?
I don't see why we need to do anything.
Yeah,
Right. I
All
mean,
right.
it's
Already part of option 1.
but there are 2 other bullets underneath that, that are related to the pedal people.
That would be with the
The third one goes away.
The second one goes
Yes.
away.
Why does the second one go away?
Well, because we have a transfer station, so you wouldn't have.
Well, this idea, this was my recommendation. Are we gonna go to number ones that are specific, ones, do you wanna talk about this now, because we're talking about the pedal people? Or this is going a little out
Who
of
would be
the.
collecting the garbage from the dumpsters?
Hey, Mark, I think we should do all the threes.
Yeah, do the
Like we
threes.
talked about,
Okay.
follow
Yeah.
protocol and then
Yeah.
go back.
All right, this is where you didn't have a number, Karen, on the bullet for develop phase implementation? Yeah, I just,
Well, then by default, it's 1.
okay, all right. So the next thing, I don't have anything else that I see here with 3 or more votes. Just look at that. On our list, what are you smiling about?
Oh, well, now Mark can go back to his,
Okay, Mark,
Continue talking
yeah.
about. All right, my recommendation was to cite dumpsters around the city for use by non-motorized trash haulers, not, so that the city isn't accommodating a specific business, but in fact encouraging non-motorized haulers and not using the company pedal people because they are a company, they're not a nonprofit. So, some nonprofits are companies too, but anyway, citing dumpsters around the city for use by non-motorized trash haulers is more around allowing the pedal people to grow their business by keeping, by having places where their bikes can haul their collections within the neighborhoods, and therefore not spending so much time going from, say, the South Street neighborhood to Locust Street, back to South Street, back to Locust Street, but rather perhaps at the old South Street School, having a dumpster where they can then increase their business within that community. And then now the question comes to who picks up the dumpsters. And that's something that perhaps some of the $111,000 surplus, I think, could be used for.
We're talking about subsidy.
Can I have Jim, Mary Ann, and Mimi? I think he has something.
Just two comments. One, that putting any dumpster in any location requires a number of state permits to do, in order to do it.
On city land?
On city property, it doesn't matter where they are, as long as it's a centralized collection point, it's requires at least a couple of different permits in order to do that. And then just the second thing is it raises the specter of potentially providing some advantage to a private company. And someone may ask the question of why should the city get involved in the operations of a private company to support what they're doing versus what somebody else is doing.
Right, and I did check, you asked me to ask, and I told you I was going to ask a regulator about that.
Oh, whether that could be, it had to be regulated on city land?
Whatever, the whole idea. So I sent your words exactly to a regulator. And I had a preliminary discussion, and the issue was, my question was if a school could have a dumpster out back, why couldn't this happen? Because, for school waste, we don't need a site assignment for that. And the answer was it depends on who's generating it. If the school's generating the waste and it's on their property, that's fine. But if people like these guys, and I'm generating it, somebody's picking it up from us and taking it from us to another point, that kicks into a regulatory situation.
Okay, Mary Ann, Mimi?
Yeah. I want to thank Jim because that's the concerns I had, was the permit process and also promoting businesses. And I just want to use as an example, Mark, on Ryan Road with Solar Tower, that I did place in landfill to generate business. That's my job as a counselor, to generate money for the city, okay? And it was a private entity that wanted me to have that solar tower placed over on their property to generate them money. So I really have a problem about me as a counselor, or any counselor, promoting other businesses when we have a job to promote and make money for the city. But I have to thank Jim because I was concerned about the permit process.
I just want to say that I think that pedal people are a very unique and wonderful thing that we have in the city. But I think that, what's important is to give them the tools and whatever, maybe through Terry Anderson with the economic development, and maybe then working a partnership with one of the haulers where they could have a dumpster dedicated to grow their own business. I have faith in the pedal people to, they already came to us and said they had this type of business plan, so I have faith in them in growing their business the best way that they know how. And I think that, it's not really the role of the government to do that. That's just my thing.
I think from a public health standpoint, it would be a real issue about having dumpsters around the city, especially ones that didn't have any kind of security. The other issue I have is that and I'm a big supporter of the pedal people, but I think that in specifying, putting a name on this, I would much rather have us make a statement that we'd want the city to support any non-motorized trash collection. I think that you get into some real slippery ground. If someone else decided to put together a business doing the same kind of non-motorized pickup, I think that we would want to also encourage them to do that. So,
that's why I phrased it the way I did, not naming the pedal people.
I'm getting the sense that it's gone down in flames, Mark.
Well, I'd like to reword the recommendation.
Well, let's put it to a vote.
I'd like to reword it because that's valuable knowledge.
Make
now.
make it as a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we have a recommendation to the BPW to explore and support all non-motorized businesses in Northampton that are going towards non-motorized, which are traditionally motorized businesses. Messaging, delivering, trash hauling. Is that clear?
You've really expanded it beyond trash
I
collection. You're
know.
talking about a bicycle messaging service and something.
Non-motorized businesses that.
I think that's kind of out
Just
of
look
order.
Okay, well, then, trash should be
I love it,
specific
but I
trash
think it's
hauling.
out of
Or
order.
trash hauling.
I think you want to meet with your
Non-motorized
city
trash.
councilor and help them, and tell them an ordinance you'd like to see on the.
Yes, okay, non-motorized trash hauling businesses to support in whatever way they can. Non-motorized trash haul businesses. BPW to support in whatever way they can, non-motorized trash.
Collections.
Trash hauling, collection.
Actually, you could just say
Trash.
continue to support since they're.
Yeah.
I would like to say, I mean, that's,
Okay, Terry seconded, or?
No, I'm not.
You wanted me to ask?
There would have to be a second.
Yeah, okay, that was what you were saying.
so
Second?
you want,
I'd like to hear that again.
I'd like a motion to recommend to the Board of Public Works to continue to support non-motorized trash hauling in whatever way they can. That's the recommendation.
I'll second it for discussion.
Discussion? Anybody want to
I,
take another crack?
I just think it's vague. I think it's not a clear thing to, and I think even just that we're spending any more time on this is, you know, we have a time frame. My personal opinion is that I think that it's an unnecessary motion. It's an unnecessary thing for us to be doing. I think that they already do support them, and I think that any other kind of support at this point is, we have the transfer station, they're allowed to bring their stuff to the transfer station. No other hauler is allowed to do that. So that in and of itself is helping them.
Comments?
All in favor? We're calling a vote?
Yes, just all in favor? 2, all those opposed?
I'll say I voted for it because I
Okay,
seconded
3 in
it.
favor?
1, 2, 3.
We're in favor, right?
This
How
is,
many?
yeah,
Three.
3 in favor, opposed? 4, abstained?
Who was the
2.
third in favor?
David.
Donna, David,
I think we need a clearer motion.
Yes.
And if anybody wants to,
I make a
that's
motion
the
that we
issue.
move past the pedal people. I don't think that it's an issue anymore since we're sticking with transfer station.
We're-
Or non, I make a motion that we move beyond non-motorized hauling in the city because I feel that at this time, with our recommendation we've been doing, there's not really any extra effort that has to be done on the part of this task force.
So the motion didn't.
We're in the middle of a
No.
motion now.
Yeah.
So we voted on it.
We're almost
Yes.
done with this.
No, it
We-
failed.
It didn't
3 to
fail.
4 to 2
Okay,
abstentions.
four were against?
Yes,
Okay, then it's done.
yeah. I'd just like to move, someone said they wanted to reword it.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Three in
to
favor,
say-
4 against, 2
abstain.
abstained. We're done with this.
Okay, we can check the pedal people off our list.
Well, I was going to,
You're gonna make a.
I would like a motion of just general support for non-motorized collection, to continue that whichever way forward that the city moves in hauling and collection. There's room for non-motorized collection.
That's what
No, it is what he just said? All right. Unless someone seconds it, I'll let it go. Okay. Just hold it. All right. Sorry. That's it.
I
We're
think
back
that-
to the top.
Yeah. Can we just do it based on the bullet, the black, like,
The headings of the
Yeah.
section?
yeah, can we just do that?
Okay. So collection system, gone.
done.
Did we want to talk about any of those recommendations within it though, about, or do we want to just say that we recommend they maintain it and leave it at that, and the PPW will decide about the hours and
Yeah,
the.
there will be made, under there, there's a bunch of, there's like one vote for keeping current hours. I mean, you're not saying that those will stay. that we're
No,
just keeping- okay.
yeah, I'm saying, do we need to talk about that, or just say our recommendation is to move it forward with that, and then any of those other, or do we want to make recommendations where we actually would say, keep the hours the same, talk to the
Because I didn't think we got into that level of detail
We
about
didn't.
the hours.
Yeah.
So that would.
Well, I think there's I know in a conversation Mark and I had that, we had a different perspective on that.
Well,
See, I would love to, I would favor letting the DPW figure that out.
I want to second his motion.
But, okay. So not to take
It was an
votes
emotion.
under.
Didn't need motion. Let the board
Okay.
of public works.
so
All right.
we are moving on.
But I would, actually though, I would, one of the recommendation, was, I think there were more than one person, the monitoring the system's revenues, implementing a short-term plan, or, a piece about monitoring the system's revenues and costs during the transition period, and reevaluate periodically about the long term. I don't know if that came through in a couple of.
I think Mary Ann did.
I did too.
So there was at least three that talked
I think
about
I
it.
did too.
All right.
So I guess I'd like that to be part of the,
All right.
well, or at least I'd like to make it as a motion as part of the option one recommendation.
So this is the fourth bullet down under collection system option 1 as a motion.
Second that motion. I think it's very
Discussion.
valuable.
That's fine.
So we're voting under collection system to keep bullets 1 and 4. Everything else goes away.
We haven't gotten to that yet. Not a problem.
Well, yeah, because 1 is keeping the current system,
And,
4 is implementing
yeah,
short-term.
and then the rest, we're gonna move
Let's
beyond that.
just, the vote on bullet 4. Any further discussion on bullet 4 before we get? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain, okay.
Was that
Okay.
9?
Terry, your question about.
So you made the motion, did somebody second?
I did.
So I believe if you look at everything on the bottom half of page 7 here, everything drops away but those 2 bullets, and that's the recommendation.
That's one of the recommendations.
For collection system.
Or collection
For
system.
collection system.
First bullet and fourth bullet.
Right.
Mark, you're just saying on this page, those are the two things that are.
So everything under option 4, we lose it in the final rating. Bullets 2, 3, and 5 under option 1 go away, and we have a nice crisp recommendation. Is that correct?
That's the collection.
I understand, that's what I said. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And recycling collection, nothing on that?
So, all right, correct.
Can I ask a question about recycling collection? Currently, the city I know has places like at the fields, I'm thinking like at the Maine's baseball field, there are places to put recycling, is that correct? In downtown and stuff, so I guess, if I was gonna make a motion, I think I would like to make, on recycling collection, is I would like to make a motion that we increase opportunities for recycling collection throughout the city, similar to what we currently have downtown and at ball fields, at different locations.
It's called public space.
Yeah,
Public space, okay. I'm not sure what's available on King Street for people who might be walking there. I don't know what's available down Pleasant Street, those areas. I know that Main Street has a lot of stuff, so I'd like to make that motion and then be open up for
I'll second
discussion.
that motion.
Could you reiterate?
I make a motion that we increase the opportunities of recycling in open spaces within, public spaces within the city.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion?
So public space is defined as city-owned? Is that public space?
It's gotta be city.
City-owned.
But we also would be required to collect the recycling.
Exactly, we have to pick it up.
discussion.
If the city wanted to put one in my yard, it's fine.
That was your one.
Put it on our own property.
So there's a cost to it, there's a cost to it, which I think, Jim?
There's a cost to it.
Yeah, that's,
I think Karen could probably elaborate a little bit more, but we provide recycling containers at, different ball fields and public spaces, places where we know there are going to be groups of people congregating. Then obviously on Main Street, there are places for recycling. Whether we want to do more, I mean, we can always look at doing more. It's of course a balance between, resources and how we maintain these things. But, we've had requests throughout the city to provide additional barrels and recycling containers in locations outside, sort of outside downtown. It just becomes a resource issue in terms of picking them up.
Question, do we have a contract with the pedal people to do that? All of that? Do they handle
Downtown.
all of it? They just do downtown?
And that contract's with the bid.
We don't, isn't it bid?
It's with the bid.
Wait, I'm confused, too many people are talking. Go ahead.
Parking Commission is contracted with them. They do all the downtown, Florence, parks and ball fields. They do all the cities.
Yeah, who was
Excuse
saying
me,
the
we
bid?
don't do parks and ball fields.
Oh, you don't? Oh, right.
We do Florence and downtown.
Okay.
Right.
What was the bid? You got the bid, what is contract?
I thought it was.
We're paying for it?
Maybe wrong. Yeah.
Who's wrong?
Bid.
Parking Commission.
The Parking Commission.
Parking Commission.
Yeah, parking.
And a contract with the Parking Commission.
Parking Division.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the bid, publicity about that. So we had discussion, who seconded the discussion?
One other thing I might mention, we might work with the Chamber of Commerce to have businesses sponsor recycling containers in front of their own businesses. Like Stop and Shop would take care of their own recycling there.
Yeah, I'm making this recommendation based on the fact that we're supposed to be trying to do things to reduce. And I think having receptacles is benefit in that.
More options, better. More opportunities.
could I make an amendment to your motion?
Final.
Or you can hear what it is first. So it says expanding in public spaces.
Yes.
And can we also say, can we also add in city office buildings as well?
Yeah.
I know that not every, it's sort of spotty in different city office buildings, just because of public, there's a lot of public space in the city office building. So we would add that as well.
Who's, you seconded, Mary Ann?
Yes.
Acceptable to you?
Yeah.
See, I do know Robert's rules. Any more discussion? People understand the motion?
I guess what about city buildings, public spaces in city buildings?
Inside the buildings.
Yeah, it could be in the entryway, it could be, doing soda machine, it could be where, we have them in some buildings.
Right.
I'm confused on, I have increased recycling collection in public spaces, but who would increase? Or do we want to support the increase of, we would ask a specific entity to do it, or do we want to encourage, or do we want to encourage an entity to do it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So, to amend it, it could say that we would encourage the city to explore opportunities to provide more recycling in more open spaces.
In public spaces.
Why do I keep saying open spaces? In more
Public.
public spaces within the city. So that way it's not saying that we have to, but we're recommending. Do you accept that, my second?
As long as it doesn't say
I'm
open
not
space.
sure.
Could you just say it one more time?
I thought your question was who we wanted to direct to do it, and you kind of diluted your motion.
Oh, well,
DPW.
I think I meant to because I don't necessarily want, because Karen made a very valid point I thought about, we could also explore the Chamber of Commerce to, support businesses in doing it. So I thought we, instead of saying the city or the parking division, we could actually just say that we encourage. But I
So
want to amend
explore
Public
ways
space
to
or
expand public space recycling and increase recycling in public buildings.
Recycling opportunities in public.
Yeah.
Increase recycling opportunities in public spaces in city buildings.
Okay, is that clear? That's agreeable to the second and the fifth and the third and whatever. Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Nobody abstaining.
We have another consensus?
Unanimous, okay. Anything else under pay as you throw? I think so. Jump
So-
up if you've
So in
got.
pay as you throw, bullets 2 and 3 stay, the rest go away?
I think do we need to vote on bullet 3?
I think we should.
Oh, there was just, I missed the meeting. I thought there was discussion on more than one size of bag.
It was, but we
It
didn't have a
wasn't.
specific,
Oh,
make a motion, somebody want to
biodegradable,
make a
okay.
motion on bullet 3?
So, no, I don't.
I would like to make a motion on both three of my recommendations. So, this was my recommendation. So, explore the adoption of 3 sizes of biodegradable bags made from mostly recycled plastic,
How about multiple sizes?
multiple sizes,
Because 2 might suffice, 3 might be better.
multiple sizes, fine.
Second?
On the biodegradable piece, so what's the
Term of
science?
art?
I mean, I know it's good to have a biodegradable bag, but you're also putting it in a landfill.
Right.
Things aren't supposed to biodegrade.
Correct.
It's a,
We've kind of let that go in discussion throughout, but if you put a biodegradable bag in an anaerobic landfill, it's just like putting a plastic bag in there. Thousands of fewer years, it's going to take a long time.
Do you want to make a friendly amendment to this?
I'm just making a point of order, that I think biodegradable bags is a step, I've been thinking about this a lot. If we were to excavate the landfill at some point and send it to there's some other disposal process where it is going to be exposed to air or light, there may be a reason to have biodegradable bags. But with our current system, there's really no reason to use biodegradable bags.
They increase the cost significantly, and most bags, the pay-as-you-throw bags that you get made for this kind of program are made out of recycled plastic.
So the increase, the biodegradable part increases the cost significantly?
Yes.
And
With very little value
with very little value?
for the biodegradable.
Someone like to make a friendly amendment?
Well, I'll make the amendment to my motion with that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Explore adoption of
Explore the adoption
multiple
of
size.
multiple size bags for the bag system made from mostly recycled plastic.
I second that.
Any more discussion?
State says 20% recycled.
Minimum.
We got,
Those in favor?
all those in favor?
On there?
Opposed? Okay, seeing none?
We have another unanimous.
Bless you.
Anything else on that one? I know there was some discussion of average. Anything else under pay-as-you-throw? Anything else under composting, organics, conversion? Speak up.
In addition to
or-
what
Didn't we say earlier we would take no action on this one?
well,
No,
there was a
We did.
recommendation.
We did.
on the fifth bullet.
But it was the,
Well, No,
No, the third bullet point.
the only thing was to expand food waste collection to both transfer stations. That was,
Third one
that
was the
was,
one
we
we
voted
agreed on
last
last
week.
week.
I'm sorry, Dave?
Yeah, that was the one we voted on last week.
Anything else there?
That's bullet 3, correct?
No. Okay, so we got that.
And
Anything else?
are we already distributing bins at cost in the food compost? Or-
Yes,
So
we
that
are.
we're doing it, so.
Those aren't at cost,
Well, they're,
They're way below cost.
they're free.
no, well, they pay
I
the
paid mine.
same
It's
cost that we
fine.
buy them
Money.
for. No, the compost.
The
one.
the compost.
Yeah, so
What's the stuff that's free?
I'm sorry, it was the kitchen containers that
Oh,
the,
those, yeah, okay.
All those.
is there any other bullet point here from last week that somebody submitted that they want to explore further? I don't know if I already agreed to.
Okay. Reuse,
So all these,
bullet one, we,
So what just happened, those are gone, right?
those are all gone?
yeah, we just three, the third bullet.
And the promote backyard compost.
Yeah, so now we're not. Reuse?
We want to, before we leave that one
Yes.
though, I mean, do we want to at least say something about, I don't know, I guess I'd be willing to say continue promoting backyard composting through bin distribution and education. Because again, I think, we've got a program in place, but I think we can always try to promote it more and try to let more people know about it.
Motion?
So the motion would be continue promoting backyard composting through bin distribution and education.
Second. My comments a moment ago when I said the rest go away is, I'm just trying to stay clear on what it is we're doing as we go through here.
My question on that one, I agree with everybody, but I'm concerned that if we start opening the door on current items that we're doing, that we're going to have to include a lot more statements in here than what we already have. You may, Jim and Karen might have other thoughts on that, but it seems like we're doing a lot of really good things right now that we want to keep doing, but if we try to encourage what we're already, if we try to include what we're already doing in here, this is going to be murkier in terms of moving the city forward.
Can I ask a question on that? Do we currently distribute the bins at cost? That's current? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was the one who said it was superfluous to begin with, so here I am saying. But then I also felt that, we're promoting a certain kind of composting to people that are using the drop-off. And I think we should also make sure that we include that backyard composting is another way for people to do waste diverting. And that we should keep doing that and do education about it. Because a lot of people may not know that they can get a compost bin. I mean, so that's what I meant.
Actually, the grant that you were talking about last week, it's another way that they could consider continuing to look at it.
The drop-off compost program is open to all residents as well, not just people that are using the drop-off. Of course, they get the state to use it now.
And a lot of people probably want to keep their compost. So we had a second, Terry, you seconded it, right?
I did.
So we're still discussing that? Any more discussion on that?
I just want to clarify, the compost that the city offers is for everything. Most people who do backyard composting compost their fruits and vegetables and coffee grounds and things like that. The city's actually takes everything. So it's something that most people don't do in their backyard. And it's a wonderful program.
Any other discussion? Okay, clear on what the motion is? All those in favor? Aye. I see unanimity. Okay. So I won't call for the rest of this. All right, reuse. Anything new on this that we haven't already voted on? Want to bring up?
It seems to be so many facets to this, a reuse center, and then beyond the bricks and mortar center, the idea of an online, a Northampton specific online
Yeah, we have
piece.
one. We have one already. It's Freecycle.
Freecycle.com.
Which we
Yeah.
use all the time.
There's the idea that I brought up perhaps of organizing a volunteer-run swap shop market twice annually at the local schools. Place for people to bring their items that they might otherwise put on a tag sale to do a community-wide tag sale kind of thing. Prior to getting a reuse center open, that would be something that I would like to see happen. I think that it could be organized.
Is that a motion?
Well, all right, so yeah, it's going right to bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4 down under reuse. Organize volunteer run swap shop markets twice annually at one of the local schools.
Can I ask a question, please, Mark?
Yeah.
So, does that mean we've already dismissed bullets 1, 2, and 3, and we're now on number 4?
No, I'm just simply jumping right to number 4.
Could we do them in order?
Sure.
I think we already approved number 1.
One is
at the
approved, one
last
has already
meeting.
been done.
1 is in the recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. 2?
I think that,
Is that part of number 1?
I would assume.
Yeah, that seems to be part of it.
Well, we could vote on it if that would.
Or does it go away?
The people who made these recommendations, you feel that that has been incorporated into the recommendation we made last week?
Well, I made the first half of that.
Okay.
And I think Mimi made the second half.
You're saying establish, the first one we approved said establish a reuse resource recovery center / swap shop.
That would be my comment, is that I think the first statement, which is to encourage reuse center and to establish reuse and recovery center, swap shop,
Brings it in.
that seems to be pretty inclusive of everything else that follows. We want to, create greater opportunities for reuse of goods, period.
Okay.
I
And
don't
then
think we need to
establishing a
be-
reuse recovery center, swap shop. No,
I
that-
certainly think that if there's a group of people who want to volunteer and put together a swap, that they could approach the Public Works and ask to do that. I don't think they'd be discouraged from doing that. But that's really not in line with what we're doing. I think they're just making that one statement at the beginning that we're encouraging greater opportunities for the use of goods. Covers it.
well, I just want to say that, I know, I heard David Starr last week when he talked about how, there was going to be a volunteer one, but it kind of fell apart when we were using volunteers, not a thing, and that's a very true statement. Things can fall apart. I like the idea for bullet number 3 where it talks about trying to form a task force and maybe something through City Hall or through the mayor in conjunction with the Board of Public Works possibly to get volunteers who would like to run a reuse center, something that we could encourage, and we make a recommendation that the mayor look into that or something, that a task force for people who are really serious about it and want to do it. When you have volunteer organizations trying to get more volunteers to do more volunteer activities, people are stretched pretty thin. But if someone signs up to be on a task force to specifically do something, I think it's more powerful. So I would make a motion that we would encourage that the mayor or city council would form a task force charged with starting a volunteer-run reuse center as well as other recycling reuse reduction programs until a more permanent structure is created within the city.
I'll second that.
Is that under your committee?
Under
The other committee?
the Solid Waste Action Education Committee.
We've been trying, that's one of the tasks, but.
Just so you know, it has to be already, Mimi, the mayor did set up a task force to study a reuse center that, I think there were like 8 people on it. They disbanded in 2004, and they made a recommendation to the mayor. So, and it got bogged down in the mass highway space. So,
But I'm looking more as you get people who say this is important to us, and they would be the ones who would get the location, it wouldn't be about trying to, do the other things that the Education Action Committee is doing, which is a lot of stuff. It would be focused on just trying to get something up and running, so it could actually start up and running, and then it could become a feasible program that the city could adopt. And as being if I were to be a member of that task force, I would be contacting, the K-Lane dealership. I'd be contacting the local schools. I would do all these things to say, how can we make this happen? And contacting PTOs. But it would be a matter of if I signed on for that one task. And I'm sure there's people in the city who really care about that issue that would say, let me sign up for that one task. So.
And just conversationally, how is that different than the first statement?
Because to me, the first statement is more about the BPW trying to find a more permanent location that would be run by the city rather than always being staffed by volunteers. And it may be staffed by somewhat volunteers, I would see as a more permanent fixture, something being staffed by like the gatekeepers that we currently have at the landfill, something that would be open. But I'm talking about while we're waiting for that, just so it doesn't fall apart, we'd make a recommendation that, you know, people who would like to serve and make this thing happen. I mean, I'd be happy to volunteer and serve on the task force for that. My husband might kill me if I volunteer for anything else. And, but you know, I mean, I think it's important, and I'd really like to see this program happen. And I just think it, you know, so.
This is what I think about too. It doesn't have to be at the local school. It could be at the Kaling Center, it could be at any other empty place at the good parking lot.
Rather than figuring out right now.
Yeah,
let's
rather than,
go-
yeah, but a
But I-
task force that could do perhaps twice annual
Solely
community.
focused on that.
Whatever the
We're going
detail is, let's
Right.
not go into the
Yeah.
detail.
Right.
I want to speak to this also because I got probably more calls on this than anything else. So I do support what you're proposing, reactivating a new task force, or however you want to call it, Campus New, but I just, as part of the discussion, want to support that, a specific action step under the general is bullet, first bullet, to really focus and get others to look at this. There were so many people that contacted me that wanted to see this
And it's
happen.
something that could be done sooner than later.
Oh, sure.
Right.
So you're
exactly.
saying it as an action step?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, form a task force.
that fourth bullet. Third bullet.
Third bullet, and which, in a way, makes the bullets below that unnecessary.
Mhm.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah,
Right, it could be, they could be.
So we
sent
may
to
wind
them.
up with 2 bullets here, number 1 and number 3.
That's correct. So we have a
I'm going
second?
to read the motion and then may I get a second.
I think it's this third bullet.
this was my recommendation from last week, so I'm happy to make that motion. Although-
Mimi.
Amy already made a motion.
Okay,
Second.
great.
So
Mimi, make my
second.
motion. I'll second it. I'll second my motion. I
Any
mean, my
more
recommendation.
You actually already have.
But she
Yes.
reworded it
Yeah.
a little bit, so.
She reworded it, and I agree with the reword.
Do you need Nope. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Ro, I don't
Oh, I
have you
raised
down.
my hand.
Okay, you're for, okay, so that,
For
good
four.
unanimity on that? Okay, I think we've covered waste prevention and source reduction with Donna's earlier motion. Okay, education?
Can I say one thing about waste prevention and source reduction, because I'm not sure it
No.
is covered?
Yes.
Yes.
I think the strongest response we had last week was when I brought up clear plastic bags. And what clear plastic bags represent is enforcement of the recycling ordinance. And I'm not sure that we have addressed that in waste prevention and source reduction. So I'd like to make sure that part of our recommendation to the DPW is to have a policy for recycling ordinance enforcement. And
Is
makes
that
it-
motion?
Well, it's
coming up.
actually coming up.
It's
on
coming
this
up.
Oh, is
page.
it?
Enforcement section.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's an enforcement.
Sorry.
Hold that thought.
I'll hold it.
And that motion. Okay, education?
You want to do them right in order?
Can I just ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a department, or I'm sorry, we have a committee right now that's a solid waste education action committee, who in some ways I think is taking on a lot of these bulleted points that we talked about. I could be incorrect on that, but you serve on it, right, David and Rose?
Ron
Still
and I were on
active.
it until this started, yes.
Yeah. So, I'm just wondering how much we have to, I guess I'm trying to understand our role in this particular, other than saying we support, maybe continue to educate. You know, could support the Solid Waste Education Action Committee in their efforts to, I guess I'm kind of wondering how much we have to do for this.
Well, you know, the problem with the Solid Waste Education Action Committee is that they have virtually no budget. So it's an ineffective committee from my point of view. So I don't think that it would be duplicating efforts necessarily to go through some of these points that we feel are the most important.
Say more, have I-
Oh,
bullet, it says, engage a full-time recycling. That was one that got 2 votes, or two folks suggested it. How does that, would that be in addition to Karen's position?
No, I think, at least from when I had said that, I was just reinforcing the fact that we needed to maintain a recycling and solid waste manager.
So maybe that could be changed to maintain a full-time recycling coordinator.
I don't agree with that.
Well, going to that, looking at table 4, under the expenses, that's accommodated for in the expenses under option 1 is Karen's position.
The bullet 3, I had made that when we were talking about a curbside program. I think this has less relevance with the current system.
In other words, I think education is key to fulfilling our charge. We can't do enough PR and education about how to compost, how to recycle, when and where, and why. And so I would like bullet number 2, which is my recommendation, to be put into a motion. It's a specific action step to develop a pamphlet on how and what to recycle and compost. I mean, I've worded that generally. I'm open to revisions on that. And also on how we distribute that. My thought was, do we distribute it with the, we mail it out along with the property tax and water bills, with just an insert, a little insert, maybe 1-pager, as well as perhaps in the packaging, many of the, with the official Northampton trash bag. Many cities that I've seen that have the official trash bag, who use the bag system, have some kind of flyer that's inserted in there that talks about how to compost, how to recycle, how to minimize the amount of trash that goes into that bag, and therefore save money.
So if I could ask a question, does that mean we have accepted, or we're going to skip the first bullet?
Oh, we're going back to, I'm just
I
going.
hate to be a pest about it.
Okay.
I
but
know,
we're just
but
gonna do it in
it's
order.
jumping.
You want to do it in order? Okay.
It's crazy.
That was my, the first bullet was my recommendation.
Well, it's
Or
fabulous,
general.
Wendy.
What?
It's fabulous.
It is.
Well, thank you very much.
I think it's great to the
So do-
mission.
I make that,
By way of information, you're referring to
I didn't mean to jump
solid
ahead here.
waste and recycling information?
Yes.
Just to clarify that?
Reuse, reduce, and recycle.
Yeah.
I definitely think it'd be nice to have, I think it's very important for people to know what can be recycled and what not, but I also think it's really helpful if people use their great idea. If it could be something the Gazette would even feature, something, my great recycling idea, what do I do to reuse? Because I do a lot of creative things with the materials that can be recycled, just to try and use it a few more times in some other format. And I know there's probably people out there, I'm sure David has it on his own website, that he's probably got all the different neat kind of things that people do to, so I like the idea of keeping it available in multiple formats. But I'd like to see also about reuse, rather than always just recycle.
Second. So what you said?
Oh, sorry, did I step out of it?
no, that's okay, because Mark actually was trying to form a motion and then it got lost in the shuffle.
I can wait until after the first bullet.
So we weren't necessarily doing that, but I think Terry not being here last time, you have a different concept of what we're doing, but that's okay, it's
Well,
sort
I'm
of
just
helping
trying
us.
to be clear,
Yes.
are we deleting bullets that are not, we turn out to be irrelevant? Is the fact we've jumped to number 2 mean that we're all good with number 1?
No, we weren't doing it in
We're
order.
going to delete number 1.
No, I jumped to the specific
I
recommendation.
move bullet number 1, which is what,
Usually if there's any of these that you disagree,
Well, let's do it.
Well,
I like them all.
Let's do one at a time.
like them all, but the affordability issue is the question. And I mean, if they say there's no money to do stuff, I think there's all kinds of opportunities to do things at no cost. And I would just encourage that.
I really like your motion, Wendy.
I do.
So let's.
Want to see more?
Um,
Well, but,
disagree with any of these, but I'd like to see an actor. Who should keep the information updated? Who should develop a pamphlet? Who should engage recycling coordinator?
Solid waste education.
Well, these are all recommendations made to the Board of Public Works. For
Okay.
the detail, I think the administrative
So
detail on that.
That the public, Board of Public
DPW
Works
decide
should.
how it's best
Or if,
administered in consultation with the DPW. Yeah, I mean, these are recommendations to the DPW.
Right. And then
Or-
some of these could be subsumed under the very first one.
Right, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
They are redundant.
I think that bullet 2 is redundant to number 1.
well, I don't. But can we do these in order?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry.
It's catchy.
Okay, so motion on number the first
I
one?
made a motion, do we get
And I
a second?
seconded
And I seconded.
Okay.
Can we a third, fourth?
Go ahead.
Third.
All right, any more discussion on bullet 1?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained, okay,
Yeah.
unanimous. Are you, we haven't gone through all the bullets and the other things. Is that what we wish to do now?
Yeah.
Well,
Or if they're redundant,
No,
then we don't, if they're redundant, then we X them out like we've been doing.
Yeah, I assume if we didn't speak about them, it's because there wasn't enough enthusiasm to.
Well, the fourth one, I think we already adopted as a major
We did.
recommendation, so that
Yeah.
one's not in play.
I thought the second one was separate, is distinct from the first one, that's why I don't think it was subsumed or is part of the first
I
one.
think it's more specific. I think the
It's
second
more
half of
specific.
it is something different.
So we have do you put out a recycling flyer once a year?
Yeah, we try to
Yeah, I
do
thought.
something citywide.
Mhm,
So last year, we did a direct mail piece that went to everybody in the city.
mhm.
Karen's been working hard every year with this 3 Rs guide that's published by the Gazette and also by the Springfield Republican, which has the beauty of it, it's produced by the paper, it's an insert into the paper, but it's also available electronically, so that it's available for people that don't want to get something, pieces of paper sent to them in the mail on a regular basis, because you have to think about the sort of the generation side of paper use as well. So, there are some pretty reasonable avenues for that information being distributed now.
I think Jim raised a good point, and I was just want to say that I love this idea. However, there's so much detail on what can and cannot be recycled that I have to go to the website each time. I'm like, this is a yogurt container. I forgot what I have to do, or something new. So I find that a pamphlet. I'm concerned that a pamphlet may not, or the size of the pamphlet might make the mailing cost twice as much.
I don't think it's legal to do that. You think you can have a third of a page on both sides as an insert with that type of mail, working with South Hadley on theirs, right?
Okay, then I'm
Just-
going to
just
amend
give me a
this
third of
just
a
for the
page
sake of moving
on
things
both
along.
sides.
I'll amend this by dropping the first half. I think we should have something that we include with the packaging of the official trash bag, whether it be on the box or included within the bag, however they're distributed in bundles.
Do they do that anyhow, Mark?
Ooh,
When you order the bags,
yeah,
an insert comes with the bag. You design, the city designs the insert, and it comes with the bag.
okay.
But Mark's recommending that the design include recycling guidelines.
Yeah, education.
Yeah, if we have any more.
So.
I'll second that.
To confirm that it does.
People understand what the motion is?
Sure.
Not really.
Is the motion to include
To
where is
include
with the bag
pamphlet.
packaging, a detail on
Can I-
how and what to recycle and compost?
Right.
And Arlene, are you saying that's already?
I'm saying that when you order, each sleeve of bags comes with an insert that the city designs. And it typically is
What's recycled?
rules and regulations of what you recycle.
Okay, great.
Can I make one suggestion that might satisfy this? Up above, it says EG, and the one we just approved, it says EG websites, emails,
bill stuffers,
Just add it
direct
to that.
mailing, newspaper inserts.
Trash
You could say trash bag insert.
I
Municipal
second
trash
that.
bag
Yeah.
insert. And
Okay.
that gives- that does what you're saying without
Municipal
separate-
trash bag insert, yes.
And then after the comma, including information about recyclable materials and difficult to manage wastes.
Yep.
And
On
compost.
compost.
And compost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, are you revisiting that first?
Okay.
And just to kind of consolidate.
So now bullet 2 goes away.
Yeah.
Number 3 has gone away.
Yeah.
So did you get
Four
that?
has been voted.
Okay, great.
So, reach consensus on one, right? We've amended it and reached consensus, we agreed to one again, okay. David, you would, recycling, you David, Norco's, city-owned buildings, you had already sort of added that
I
in.
think so, I guess I hadn't realized this one was in here, so.
Anything else on this, any of these other bullets?
Well, what about whoever made that motion of multifamily residence, apartments, and businesses?
I do.
Doesn't the new ordinance address that, Karen?
The new ordinance from the Board of Health?
Right.
Just to circle back to recycling collection, so now, David, would you agree that the fourth bullet here eliminates the need to have anything under recycling collection?
Well, I think it's the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Or just go the other way?
I think it's the
Okay.
other way around.
All right.
I would speak up for, one of them, the work with haulers bullet. I guess I would put that forward as a motion, meaning, maybe not necessarily exactly how it's worded, but just the concept of, we've all identified the fact that, there's this other universe of people in the city that are doing trash and recycling. And while you have to do citywide stuff that might reach them, it seems like there may be a way to work with the haulers to make sure that we're getting information to them or about recycling. So, I guess what I would say is work with haulers to explore ways of providing recycling education materials to private subscription customers or something like that. I know some of them already do it, but I think it's part of our education. That's a large portion of our citizens that's how they do their trash recycling. So I'm not putting a Band-Aid or anything like that. It's sort of trying to work with the haulers just so that we know how there's ways that we can be communicating, or that the information's being communicated to those customers. That was the spirit in which I made it.
The only thing I would change on that would be a change on provide incentives. I don't think we're in a position to.
Yeah, I dropped that.
So what's the motion?
Work with haulers to explore ways to provide educational materials to private subscribers. Is that,
I think so, yeah.
I'll second that.
Terry's going like that. Did you want to comment?
No, okay, I'm good, that's my,
I'm just curious with the current ordinance, whatever if it was an ordinance, the mandatory recycling, is that part of what is already happening under the mandatory recycling with the haulers?
They're required to provide samples of their educational materials, and we've already found that there's a lot of variation, which needs to be standardized across the city.
We're backing you up here.
Okay.
So I can keep it or withdraw it, or?
I mean, by keeping it, I guess by keeping it out, we're doing the same, we support the fact that you're already doing it, so.
I just think we want to recognize that there's this other education component of the customers that aren't our customers, but they're still city residents who are doing recycling.
Yeah, I think it's
We have a second?
I second.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? I didn't didn't see you.
Okay, I abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Enforcement. Mimi, you wanted to, no, who was it? David. I'm sorry, David.
You know, before I go into that, Karen, it'd be helpful if you talk about how, working with Arlene, the new, what you've come to in terms of recycling ordinance enforcement, since the new ordinance was written.
Regulations were, so there were new regulations that were promulgated by the Board of Health. So I think there were no ordinance, but they were,
Okay.
just to clarify.
So we did some outreach to the local haulers, and they didn't have any comments or objections. We only had one hauler come to the public hearings. Since then, we've had some pushback from one hauling company, and they are
Pushback about what, Karen?
legalities
Legalities of them,
of how enforceable it
Uh-huh.
is. But I'm saying it's kind of a friendly conversation at this time, but I think we need to get through it and not, I don't think it's going to cause a problem, but it's just, we have to go through a little bit of process.
So just for the public that may be watching, so the regulations essentially say that if you're a business or an apartment building that doesn't fall under, that contracts with somebody, that the haulers have to offer recycling as
Yes.
part of that contract.
And at one price, they can offer recycling as a separate service.
So it's
all one price.
but that doesn't really address enforcement.
There's plenty of enforcement capability, but it's really a regulation that, for haulers, not for waste generators.
Right, so what are the provisions of the enforcement? What are the fines and?
Yeah, there's a procedure, there's, it's kind of a 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out kind of approach. So they have plenty of opportunity and assistance from the city.
And who are the enforcers?
Basically, it's myself and the
Myself
Board
and
of,
myself.
and the Board of Public Works.
Is it a non-criminal disposition?
Yes.
City engineer,
I'm not doing purple bags.
But to answer your question, I don't think it's not to go, drive down the street and see 10 people that are using a private hauler, and if they don't have recycling out, that those people would be fined. It's more that the hauler must offer. It's not that the resident must put it out, which I think is addressing your concern.
Right.
So when you say one, be more specific about 3 strikes you're out. You get a warning fine, or you lose your permit. I've not seen these, so, sorry.
So first offense will result in a written warning, providing details about the infraction and specific requirements that have to be met to comply with the city's mandatory recycling ordinance. Second offense will be documented with a photo and written record, delivered with a final warning notice by certified mail, including lots of detail. And then following, then there's public hearings.
For
Either
suspending
criminal, either by criminal complaint or by non-criminal procedures. And there's penalties, $50 first violation, $100 for second.
After the 2 written.
Yes, and $250 for the third substitute.
So those are the haulers that would be fined in that case.
This is the regulations that went into effect January 1st, regulations for refuse and recycling collection, and it's on the resource button of our website.
So you were addressing this issue.
Yeah, I'm still a little unclear about how we know when, pay-as-you-throw ostensibly, or I'm sure, encourages people to recycle. So it's in a way, it's its own policing system. But for those people that insist on putting their paper and their plastics and aluminum cans in their garbage, how do we? I know that it's very difficult without a curbside system to police that, private garbage. So I'm just wondering if there's any system through your research that you came up with that of enforcement.
We went with this approach because we are, the only trash that we have any control over is at the transfer stations. So basically what we're trying to do is to give everyone convenient access to recycling. We can't actually go through private dumpsters or bags but we make sure that everyone has convenient access to recycling, at least as convenient as trash.
Because we had heard complaints for many years from people that lived in apartment buildings and their building didn't offer a recycling. And so this was a way to answer that, to say that you have to provide that.
And it's, well, we have been doing a lot of enforcement at the landfill too, but that of course will be going on.
Marianne?
Karen, if I can recall, several meetings that we had at Ryan Road School, which was brought up from many residents of the haulers going into multi-apartments and so forth, and you were working with the haulers then on educating them with the residents living in those apartments, so I do know that you were doing that.
My understanding though of the regulation is that it would be up to the landlord to then say that they want, the landlord could potentially say, no, I don't want it. And the hauler won't be at fault for it. The hauler just has to offer it. The landlord could still say, no, I don't have the room for it, or whatever reasons, and it still wouldn't be offered in an apartment building. There's no, so what happens is, we don't necessarily offer an alternative, or is there an alternative? People can actually go to the transfer stations and get a day pass and drop off the recyclables. So we do offer something to try and...
What we're saying though, if you offer trash, there has to be recycling on it.
Right, but that's only if they have to offer it, but the apartment building doesn't have to accept it. If they don't have room for a second dumpster, or a second place to do recycling on their property, depending on where the apartment is, in some of these homes in these narrow streets that we have, they may choose not to take that service.
They would have to get an exemption. They wouldn't just be able to say no. They would get site visits and, if it was absolutely impossible, then they would get an exemption.
Who would get it?
The generator would not, and the hauler would not be required to provide recycling services if it was impossible.
No, but I'm saying the landlord himself could, the owner of the building could actually say, no, thank you.
And they would get a site visit to make sure that was the case. They couldn't do it. And it's not very unlikely.
They cannot offer recycling because they don't feel like it.
That's right. Or they don't want to pay for it.
They'd have to say, I'm not going to offer trash or recycling to my residents. They have to do whatever they want to do. They could do that, and then they can say, sorry, you have to go to the transfer station or whatever, but they can't.
Well, they have to, under law, provide trash. Recycling is not. Under the state law, they have to provide trash, correct? An option to, a landlord must provide
For 4 or more
trash.
units.
Health issue.
Sorry?
For 4 or more units.
4 or more units, but recycling isn't, and I think Mimi's talking to, between the cracks, the ordinance addresses the hauler, but doesn't address the multi-unit building owner.
Well, but there
They're
are waste
saying-
bans, there are waste bans, so they can't ignore the waste bans, the state waste bans. But they do ignore them possibly, but they can't. But I think, I'm just listening to this conversation, the motion you made earlier about heading toward a zero waste plan. It seems to me more research could be done about other ordinance that might apply to this situation, like the city of Springfield has. Every resident must recycle, not the haulers just provide.
Well, we do have a mandatory recycling ordinance separate from these regulations. It's just, that was very general and not enforceable.
Well,
But it does say that everyone must recycle.
I'm just saying, I think down the road, you're now recommending zero waste plan, that perhaps there are other tools to do as you're suggesting. That could be explored, not tonight necessarily, but, as part of that recommendation. And I think what you're saying is maybe we ought to explore something
Right.
to blah, blah, blah.
Karen, how many exemptions have been applied for since the new municipal ordinance, or whatever, the Board of Health regulations?
And we haven't heard any pushback from the Board of Health.
So can I ask that, do you want to make a motion? You want to think about it and come back to it?
Sure.
For the sake of keeping going, is there any other bullet points under enforcement?
Is it self-evident to say that new mandatory recycling regulations need to be implemented with outreach and education? I mean, we're doing that. We're sending stuff out to the haulers so they know about it.
It seems that that's already,
It's part of the
I think
rules.
that that's
Yeah.
redundant. It's already done, it's
Accept.
been voted on.
So we're going to drop that.
Yep.
We're going to come back and think about if we want to make a motion on enforcement, really keep going.
All right, recycling opportunities and markets.
Isn't that already the role of the
Yep.
recycling coordinator? Oh, yeah. Would be on that one?
Is it, Karen?
Well, it's something that I'm engaged in.
It's something you've been really involved in the last couple of years, but is that part of your job description?
Well,
Right.
usually this kind of task isn't in a job description,
Well,
job description.
the point is we could make it part of the job description, if it's important enough.
Does it fall within the?
Our charge?
Fall within the charge of this committee?
I think it does, yeah. Because right now, the only conduit we have to markets, other than the fact that Karen takes it upon herself to do it, is through the MRF, for markets for recyclables.
Oh, no, I get that, but I'm talking about the charge of this committee. It feels like in some of these areas here, I'm wondering, why are we voting on some of
But
these?
it's waste
waste
reduction.
reduction.
I mean, there's people that are upset about throwing away their little tomato thing, having to put all that stuff in the trash.
Karen, make your announcement.
Actually,
Drum roll.
we have really good news. Officially on Earth Day, you'll be able to recycle clamshells and other.
Only people from Northampton.
Just
No.
the people-
So the clear plastic hinged containers that are from, produce and berries and the bakery goods.
Not the darker ones?
No black trays or.
Well, no, I'm talking about like with the mushrooms and stuff, and there's like they're
No,
commercial
the
also,
blue
but they're
ones.
blue. Not the blue.
They're just talking about the clear ones, but that's a big.
Yeah,
That's huge. That's
Is that
huge,
because of
Karen.
the market or?
Just
It's
on
because
Earth
of all
Day
the
or-
talk around this table. Karen took the bandwagon
Good.
and ran with it.
May 22nd, that's the date.
April
Not-
26th.
Well,
That's not.
don't
Earth
give me
Day.
all the credit, but
Am
it
I
was.
kidding? Yes. But she
Did we
did
really
get,
have that effect?
she did
We
push
talked
very
about
hard for
clamshells a lot.
this. And,
But by
At the
getting a
River Advisory.
market?
yes,
That's fantastic.
And it will
That's
be
really
every
great.
day after Earth Day?
Yes.
Yeah, not
you
just
could
the
even
Earth
do
Day,
it,
but-
you could even do it
Earth Day,
today.
starting Earth
Actually,
Day
you
going
can
forward.
even do it today. but
Yeah, you can do it
Or you
today.
can start saving them up and bring
But
them.
there'll be a big announcement as of Earth Day going
It'll
forward.
be in the R&R, so it'll be coming out.
That's
in-
great.
That's
That's
huge,
good.
Karen.
That
That
is
is
huge.
enormous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
That's
also
great.
aerosol
All right, you can go
cans.
home now.
Aerosol cans?
Aerosol cans
That's a
are
big one.
are gonna be
Empty.
used. So empty, non-hazardous aerosol.
Oh, that was clean.
That's really fantastic.
Certain ones.
All right, so David, you were focusing on that. Do you want to make a
With-
motion or?
On the markets, yeah, I think that it should, that the recommendation should be made to the DPW that the city of Northampton should work on opening markets for materials for which there are not currently, there aren't markets for it currently.
Second? Terry, are you seconding it or are you going to speak to it?
I want to speak to it.
Mark is seconding it, okay.
I'm going to vote against it, David. I just wanted to explain why. I think it's outside the charge of this committee. And I think it's also impractical. We're clearly moving towards a single stream. And I'm not sure that it's even doable. I mean, that we're making a recommendation that the city pay someone to look for ways around single stream recycling, for example, if that's the way we go. It feels like it's way outside the detail, on a detail level and philosophically, it's outside of what our committee should be working on. And and it's not an editorial comment on whether it's worthwhile to look for alternatives. So on that basis, I'm going to vote against it.
See, I think it's waste reduction. It's one of the issues where people are trying to divert, and they're trying to, and we've been telling them, they've been really upset for the last year that we've been saying, you have to stuff those in the trash. They have to go in your trash. So that's, I mean, you can't put it in the recycling, you gotta put it in the trash. And that's been frustrating to people, and there is no place to put it, the MRF won't take it. And so, I don't know, it seems like if you try to make sure that people can put as little trash as possible into those bags, whether it's through compost, whether it's through recycling, whether it's through reuse, that this is part of that. So I don't think it's outside of it. And clearly Karen's been doing it since
Rowan.
I think that it's already expressed when we're talking about doing a zero waste plan, first of all. And second of all, I mean, that's a very general way that we definitely want to pursue that and minimize our reduction. And second of all, I think this comes under the category of micromanaging, that we have a wonderful recycling coordinator. Will we always? I don't know, but I think saying too much stuff about the recycling coordinator position isn't as relevant as talking about a zero waste reduction plan.
Ken?
I just wanted to make a statement that there's a lot of interconnectedness of the states in the regional solid waste management system, including recycling, and how certain materials are diverted from the waste stream and how they're reused, and the costs associated with separating material and how that gets to market. And a lot of the materials that we recycle, like the clamshells, for example, go through the MRF. The MRF has expertise in trying to identify markets for materials that can be diverted. The state works hard in determining certain classifications of material that can be added to the waste disposal ban list, for example. So I'm thinking of things like used carpet is one example. Asphalt shingles is another example of particular classes of materials that the state DEP is looking at very, very hard at finding markets to sort of close that loop. So there's a lot of people that are actually working on these things, and it may seem, when we sit here, it may seem like no one's looking at these things, but I think within the larger part of the system, there are folks outside of the city that are involved in that, and then just thinking more locally in terms of the things that we try to accomplish at the DPW and all the things that Karen has to do, exploring and doing a lot of research on new markets just seems like it could be a very time-consuming job when some of these things are being done by, by the state or other entities in terms of trying to find a way to divert raw materials from the waste stream. So.
Mary Ann and Mark. David has a comment. Is that okay?
Well, yeah.
No, I can wait.
Okay. Mary Ann and Mark, and then David.
Yeah, I just want to say, and I'm going to say it again, I really had a hard time about employing a full-time recycling coordinator when we do have one. And I have to agree with Terry. I think we're just going outside of what our task is for.
I think it does go towards our charge of reduction, waste reduction, commitment to maximize reduction, recycling, diversion of waste. What I think this, if this recommendation is adopted, I think it could be satisfied by codifying this duty in the supervisor, Karen's position's job description, and make sure that it is done in perpetuity for when Karen leaves. I think Karen takes this on now because of the interest level, but it's not necessarily part of her job description. And so thinking of the position itself going forward, I'd like to see it made part of the job description. And I understand that it could be perceived as micromanaging, but I think it's an important statement for this task force to make. And whether or not it is adopted by the BPW, I hope it is, because I think it is, I think it could be simply satisfied by making it part of the job description going forward.
I'd like to point out that a year ago, Karen set up a special collection for certain plastics that was outside of the MRF's collection. It was a special plastics collection, and we wouldn't have had that if we just relied on our relationship with the MRF for those collections. So there are going to be opportunities that are going to come up.
Well, actually, she did that through a pilot with the MERF.
Yeah, although we had some materials going out.
But it was a partnership with the
Yes,
MERF.
it was.
Any more discussion? I just want to say I have two minds about this. I think it is micromanaging to rewrite a public employee's job description. I'd rather have it be more general, to say that we encourage whatever efforts are going on to continue on opening new markets within, without making it, I hear what Jim had to say, that could be time consuming. I'd rather let it continue the way it is more naturally. And so I probably, I don't know what to do. But I probably will abstain actually because I've got two minds on it. But any other discussion on this one?
As they often yell at Congress late at night, vote.
Yeah. Okay.
So we get the motion.
Is it as bulleted here in front of us?
No.
The city should work on opening markets for materials that don't currently have markets.
Right.
Oh,
That
okay,
don't,
so
that aren't for materials that, for which markets aren't currently
So
available.
it takes the specificity about you working on this out of the job.
That's what
correct.
that's
The
what
way I
motion
had-
was.
I was, my comments are simply the same, that's how I think it might be.
So as you read it is where you stand.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye, or
Aye.
raise your hand. Opposed?
2.
Two opposed, abstained, 3, 4 opposed.
What do we raise? Raise
Chicken
hands.
little here. Right, okay, sorry, I'm going to start this all over again. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 3 in favor? All those opposed? 2 opposed, 3 opposed?
Or
4 opposed.
No, I'm abstaining.
Oh,
Your hands
arm
are
looks
up.
like-
Doing it
My
upstairs.
name's sorry.
You are, we
Trying
have
to
a
hold
call
my
for
head up.
abstention.
Fall asleep.
I mean, you can make a commitment, right?
I'm gonna abstain.
All right, so there's 3 opposed?
Wait, who's the 3?
All right.
Who's the 3?
How many opposed?
I'll abstain, I
I'll
can abstain.
abstain.
I guess that's not a majority. so it's
Okay,
not-
there's no, there isn't a majority vote.
Yeah, it's not-
Okay.
The abstentions outnumber the yeses.
Sorry.
We're getting tired.
I think we are.
Yeah.
I think we're way past our meeting.
Yes,
We're plowing
we
through
are,
this meeting.
but this is it, folks, so
Yeah.
difficult to manage
Last
waste.
Say time's up. Let's-
Nothing
it
there?
doesn't get done.
Difficult to manage waste, recycling collection. We can't do anything about that. Pay as you throw, we're done. Oh, we're going backwards, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, whoa, back to the future. Where are we?
Difficult to
Difficult to
manage.
manage waste.
Well, it says typical
Where am I?
waste, only waste, it's not that.
Oh, I went by that. Okay. Service population,
Okay, so back on difficult to manage waste.
yes.
Um,
Speaking for the basal action now.
Yeah. I don't know if people had a chance, I'm looking at the second bullet down on page 10. This is my proposal, I'd like to see it, I'd like to support it and see it passed. Currently, we use a company.
You're making a motion?
So we've already
Yeah, I make a
deleted
motion
on
and then.
bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, they're dead.
Yes, because we passed option 1.
Yeah. And bullet 3, and this
Bullet
first
three.
bullet was,
No.
They're all toast, we're on the board.
Well, number 3,
So I know, I assumed that 1 and 2 were toast just by, because it was self-evident, but I didn't know that the second page. Only because,
whoever made that motion or made that recommendation, do they want to?
I don't know who made it.
I did.
Okay.
Do you want to?
Can I
Talk it
announce? There's a unwanted medications collection on April 30th from 10 to 2.
I got that on our website.
Where?
Smith
Smith
location.
For Northampton's, two countywide. I sent out an email about that, which I got through a general email list, having nothing to do with solid waste, so. Okay, so you wanted to address that, Lloyd, or?
I wanted to know if we could just cover, if we're gonna, if there's not support for it, we're gonna move on. It just seemed like we were jumping to the third one.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
No, we were about to move to service population, so no one was speaking up about any of these, so I wanted to, that's why I did it.
Okay, so I guess, fine, if you want to go to the second one, this is the sewer.
Okay. Currently, the city uses a company.
Do you want to make a motion first? Is that your
Well,
motion?
So,
Is that-
can we just accept the third one?
No, I don't think so. I think there was no support for accepting it.
Or voting.
Someone want to make a motion?
The maker of it,
It was your recommendation, Wendy, this, it's the first bullet on page 10.
Okay.
Do you want to make a?
I make a motion on that bullet, use multiple education approaches. Offer residents financially self-sustaining, safe, and accessible options for disposal with particular attention to medical waste and household hazardous waste.
I second that. That would be under the category difficult to manage.
Right.
waste. Okay.
For any further discussion? Friendly amendments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous, okay. Make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that the city use a certified e-steward company as defined by the Basel Action Network to manage the city's e-waste.
Second?
Second for purposes of discussion.
Discussion, go ahead.
Okay, this goes to the information that I handed out several meetings ago about what happens to electronic waste after it gets to the dump. This is the flyer. I have extra copies if anybody wants to see it, but basically right now, there's a real problem in our country with e-waste being shipped overseas to countries like India, Pakistan, China, and other countries that don't have regulations on how they are managed. And what is happening is this e-waste is being basically cooked in unregulated settings in order to extract the metal components. And so the people who are doing this are being exposed to all kinds of hazardous, toxic poisons.
Can I ask you a point of order
Yeah.
question? Did you discern from conversations that the state contract for the various e-waste companies has no provision relative to this, and the current company the city uses doesn't meet the standard? Is that why you're
Right.
recommending this?
Right. The company that the city currently wastes, I forgot the name.
Complete recycling solutions.
CRS, Complete Recycling Solutions, is not certified e-steward company.
By Basel Action.
By the
Network.
Basel Action
Yeah,
Network.
that doesn't mean they're not reviewed and accepted by DP anytime they put somebody on state contract.
Right.
Just for information.
Okay.
Does do due diligence on this subject.
Well, listen, I handed out this information several meetings ago. If people had a chance to read it or concerned about it, I hope that you read it. I'm not going to get into a whole big reviewing what I've already handed out and reviewed. And so I hope that people would want to see our e-waste handled in a way that is environmentally, that is around stewardship, as opposed to now, which may or may not, but is not a certified e-steward company.
By the
There are-
Basel Action Network.
By the Basel Action Network.
That's the
There
only-
are companies even closer than where CRS is located, such as in Springfield, that are certified e-steward companies by the Basel Action Network, that we could use, but we don't. We use this one. Their general manager told me that they are they would be willing to look at it, to explore coming. An
Basel
e-steward company. So that might happen, but it hasn't happened now.
Can I just ask Arlene, when you say the DEP notifies people, what does that mean? Are you looking at where they're disposing and how
Yes,
to?
DEP makes the company show evidence that it is a responsible company in terms of being a steward, that the materials are recycled, they're not just sent to be dumped. That's correct.
So where would it be, for example, where would they be being recycled?
Well, I've only gone through one company in Massachusetts that's on the DEP contract, and they actually do an extraction right in the building where they take the lead out of the screen, they take the heavy metals out of the inside, they do all that there, they separate it within the confines of a building, and then everything goes out to be recycled and not shipped.
Right.
The company in Springfield, I've been on a tour of theirs, it's Waste Management.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
you've done that tour, I've done that tour, they do the same sort of thing. And all I'm saying is some companies have not applied to be in the state contract, others have applied and been rejected because they couldn't verify to DEP's satisfaction that they were being stewards of the material. So that's just I hope that answers your question.
I just had a question for Mark, whether, I'm not familiar with the Basel Action Network, I haven't done a lot of research in this area. I appreciate Arlene's comments on it. I was wondering whether companies needed to pay the Basel Action Network in order to be certified.
No. They're from what I understand of them, they are a nonprofit agency that monitors e-waste around the globe. And they're specific to that and trying to prevent toxic e-waste from being dumped around the globe. And currently Northampton has a system where at the Glendale Road transfer station, once a week or every other week or once a month, I'm not sure, a company comes to Glendale Road and picks up our e-waste and then takes it back to central to eastern Mass. I don't remember where they're located. This was part of the email that I sent out just for information purposes to the task force a month or so ago, and then handed out.
So I'm wondering why a company gets certified by Basel Action Network and why a company isn't certified by the Basel Action Network. So obviously this company that the city's using was vetted by the department before they decided to issue a state contract. So did the Basel Action Network investigate this company and say, geez, these guys are bringing their stuff over to parts unknown and we don't know how it's being dealt with? Or is it just that the Basel Action Network hasn't reviewed every particular company that deals with e-waste, or what's the...
From what I understand, the companies have to contact the Basel Action Network to be certified as e-steward. They don't, Basel Action doesn't go to the company. They have to go to Basel Action Network to become certified e-stewards.
So you don't know that this company is doing something wrong, you just know that they have not contacted Baseline.
Right, and when I reached out to them and asked them, are they doing it or are they planning on doing it, they said that they would explore it, and that was the extent of it. I don't need to take any more time on this. This is my motion. I'm sorry if my attempt was to spread this information further, but we can move on. But
Well, what you're trying to say, as I understand you, is that you're concerned that the city's e-waste is not misused after it leaves the city. And so possibly not specifying a company would achieve the same objective. And so having a motion that says that the city is recommending to use certified companies that don't, whatever the state ruling words are, so that it doesn't have to be a specific group, but that there's a consciousness involved. Would that achieve your objective?
yeah, that would.
Okay. I think because
I
what
would be
concerns
satisfied
are,
with
we
that.
don't know.
The leading nonprofit watchdog group in the world is the Basel Action Network. But that would satisfy me. I think it would be good to do something around e-waste. I'm just very conscious of it as every holiday season passes by and more gadgets are thrown out for the latest, newest thing, that we are, as a country, creating a whole lot more e-waste this year than we did last year, and we will next year more than this year. And so we, as a city, contribute to that. And what happens to that after the company comes to pick it up from Glendale Road Transfer Station is something that I think I would like to have a recommendation that we oversee a little bit better than we perhaps currently do, or, and that's the intent behind the recommendation, so I'm happy with that.
We had a second on
He actually hasn't made it.
I did.
Your
I read the-
motion
I
was
read the
that,
bullet.
was that.
But
Then you
I'm fine to
suggest-
do the amendment that Roe proposed.
You have that,
I would be
Karen?
satisfied with that.
Do you have that and can read that to
Well,
us?
it was really,
That it was not specific to, was specific to the Basil Aspen.
That the city become environmentally conscious of the disposal of their e-waste.
Be disposed of in a responsible manner.
Yes.
Well, I guess, yeah, but that's up. I would be fine with that, because I think it's the intent of the recommendation that the consciousness is raised, awareness is raised about this issue.
Can I just ask, doesn't this sort of also go back to our idea about the zero waste and producer responsibility? You say we're going to be having a lot of more e-waste. Well, the reason we're having more e-waste is because the new flat screen TV's out, the 3D TV's out.
Consumers.
Yeah, it's consumerism, and it's also the fact that they want us to keep buying the next new thing. So, you know, your computer's old after 6 months. So I guess it goes back to the idea that in time it would be nice if the producers had to take some responsibility in the fact
they're
that.
doing it in Washington State.
Yeah, they
Washington
do it in
State,
California, I
Best
think.
Buy
too.
has has to pay for take-back centers for their
It's
stuff.
coming.
Yeah.
It's coming,
They don't.
they're doing it.
And that would be the question, where then does Best Buy take it? Because they may not have to follow
Well-
the same, but.
Right.
So any more discussion on this? Ready for a vote?
So
There's
are you
more
happy with the second,
discussion.
with the amendment? That's a second, you seconded the,
I didn't quite, I'm happy to second it, sure. Second it. Because again, I think what you're talking about is you want to make sure that we use e-waste companies that are using sort of moral and ethical practices or something.
And that prove that, can prove it.
Yeah,
I can prove it.
yeah.
Do you want to say?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to suggest, since there was so much time on this, it might make sense to broaden it to any materials that are diverted from the waste stream that the city evaluate, to make sure that they're all being dealt with in an environmentally responsible way. Because it's not only e-waste, there's mercury-bearing waste, there's other types of materials that are diverted that you're not going to want on the street corner.
hazardous waste.
Yeah. And you did a great job.
Okay. So we are amending the motion. I like that idea. I think that encompasses a lot of this category of difficult to manage waste. And so,
Karen, can you read this substitute? Read that back.
To encourage the city to use certified companies for e-waste and other hazardous materials to manage, using environmentally responsible.
You didn't use the word certified.
yeah, no,
Oh,
keep
okay.
certified out.
You just want them to do due diligence.
Recommend that the city handle all hazardous waste, including electronic waste, or ensure that companies that take that waste handle it in the most responsible, environmentally sound ways.
All right, any more discussion?
Second.
So,
That'll be a third. You seconded it.
David is seconding.
I was actually voting.
All right, wait. This was your motion, Amy seconded it.
No, David seconded it.
Okay.
No, then Terry
Friendly
amended
amendment.
it,
Any friendly amendment.
And
Seconded
Mimi
Terry's.
seconded the friendly amendment.
But it's all an amendment to
All right.
the original motion,
Right,
which
we got
David
that.
seconded.
Okay, any more
It's a third,
discussion?
it's a third friendly amendment.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Oh, good.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Carried.
Okay, where are we?
Service population, which I think was part of our,
Yeah.
doesn't count now since we're not doing curbside.
So we're deleting the last two bullets under that last one?
Yeah, that's only one.
It's kind of subsumed under the first.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we
Maybe.
were the service population. That's
Service population, moving on.
Goes away.
We've done non-motorized, discounts.
Discounts, we don't need to.
Discounts don't need them.
So this is one that discounts that have
There's
been
one that we agreed on even
early
last.
before. Okay.
Okay, recommendations for future consideration, oh my God. All right.
Come on, we can get through this, we can plow through
Yep,
it, folks.
yep.
Let's
Do it.
go.
Let's do it.
It's 9
Who
o'clock.
made this recommendation? First one.
Well, this was kind of a couple people, basically saying,
Bullet one.
if you want all these programs, we have to figure out ways to pay for them. In a manner that's equitable, not just
How can
half
this-
the population that's using the transfer station.
How can this be formed in the,
I would like to make a motion
okay.
that the city explore putting solar panels on the closed landfill, which would then generate revenue, which could be funneled into programs such as composting, education, and any other solid waste education programs that they would devise.
Second.
I'll second that, because I did have that on my thing that I gave you, Karen. I was surprised that you didn't submit that in there.
It's in here, it's down
From the
1,
task
2,
force
3,
chart.
4, 5.
It's in the fifth bullet.
It's there.
Can I make a,
Thank you.
you want it to be specific to solar
Was it
panels?
seconded? Oh, Mary Ann
I
seconded,
did.
yeah.
We're
Can we just go to that fifth bullet and look at that, because it's got some other stuff in there too.
Alternative uses?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what your motion is? Sort of, maybe?
Well,
Bullet five.
the question on the top part was how will we fund these things? And I think that they could easily be funded by revenue from the solar panels.
Well-
That I know are not yet gonna happen, but I think that there's, evidence that other communities are embracing this, so that it seems high probability that they'll do
But
it.
if you look at bullet five, does that summarize what you're saying?
Well,
That's actually
sort
kind
of. Except for the fact that I'm kind of talking about how we would fund all the great, wonderful things we want to do.
It
says that.
You
So-
change
so
the,
it's
if you
revenue
change
to
the
generate
the
revenue
and
to fund
after
solid
one
waste
to
in the
buy.
You know what,
See where
you're
the
right.
one is, if you change that to
Oh,
buy?
yeah, okay.
But that's,
So we're gonna
And what
delete
about-
bullet one?
and what about the task force?
Well, this is my thought on your amendment, or your motion, is that I see where this bullet does it, but I think that being specific to solar energy is also ignoring other revenue.
It says including solar energy, it doesn't say.
Including solar, okay. Yeah, because there is, it's like advertising on the bag, so we haven't explored, or other revenue generating.
So,
So do you want to keep the task force part, or do you want to just say explore alternative uses for landfill site that include energy production used to generate save revenue to fund solid waste recycling programs by developing alternative uses, including solar energy?
second.
And do you want
Including
task
solar
force?
energy. I don't know if we need a task force.
So that's what I was saying,
So,
you want
yeah.
to just say,
Start start with
focus on-
explore, and then go right to
Explore
alternative and go on
Yes,
from there, and change the
exactly.
and.
okay.
So focus or explore.
So Mary Ann, you went at second.
Explore.
Is that friendly amendment, okay?
Explore alternative uses for land.
Yes. People can
Explore
understand what that
alternative
motion
uses.
is?
Explore alternative uses for the landfill site that include energy production used to generate safe revenue and developing alternative uses for the landfill site, including solar energy, but excluding organic composting. That's what it is.
Accepting that friendly amendment.
Sorry, I'll go next.
But that doesn't
Fight that
rule
one.
out.
I had that on my question, but it's not on there.
Yeah, the solar energy.
Okay, so we have a second?
It's like,
Well,
So now
Yeah, now
it
it's.
wraps in organic composting.
it says
Well,
that
excluding
you
it from
can't,
that
you
site.
can't do organic composting.
From that site,
So,
is what I'm saying.
From
But
what
that doesn't,
side?
that
The
doesn't
landfill.
rule out, that doesn't rule out collecting.
It doesn't exclude it from anywhere else in the city,
It
it's
rules
just
out
excluding it from that
processing.
location.
But the collection of.
All right, let's continue with the
Whatever.
process. Do you accept the friendly amendment, which was including solar energy and excluding organics?
I think it should be a separate item.
I do too.
Oh, totally.
I think it's just
Okay.
totally
It's-
bullshit.
So she rejects.
Oh, sorry, but that's,
You wait, you reject, you don't
it's
accept that as a
twisting two
friendly
things
amendment.
together. I mean, it's.
Well, I
Okay,
think that,
putting
wait,
them
let's
both
finish the
together.
I understand you're
business.
not.
Let's finish the business.
I'm just saying that by saying developing alternative uses for the landfill site, that makes it a very gray area, that language of any type of thing, and I'm opposed to using that area for a large-scale
So make a
organics
motion, a
compost.
separate motion about,
Amy, can we go ahead with this as a single motion and get to that as a separate?
Sure.
You don't have a second amendment friendly, second motion friendly amendment on that.
That's fine.
So it ends after solar energy. Any more discussion on that? Or you follow what the, okay?
But what I'm saying, though, I
Yes.
guess what I'm saying is that if you wants to put that forward, I'd say it could be put forward as a separate amendment.
Correct.
Exactly.
Well, I just
And
want to
voted
clean
on.
this.
I just want to make
Perfectly
sure
fair.
we don't
Right,
lose
because
lose the-
Well, then, you
That's
know
what I had. I had mine separately.
oh, I understand that.
I would then just like to say that my original motion, which was about getting funds to pay for things, specifically stated only solar energy. I did not say other uses. So I'd like to go back and make this motion to be just solar energy, and not to be excluding anything, but not leaving the door open for anything else.
What about advertising on bags?
Wait.
Yeah, we're off. Actually, the motion that's on the floor right now is to put solar energies on the landfill to produce
But then we-
revenue
No, we changed
for
it to.
roof.
But I'd like to go back to that one.
Okay.
So that
Oh,
it's
yeah.
specifically solar energy. It's clean, we want
So you're taking
the
out
neighborhood happy.
by developing alternative uses for the landfill.
I don't
Just
like
simply
I simply
include
solar energy.
Second?
All right, could we reread that?
There, can you read that, please?
This is the way I understand it. Explore alternative uses for the landfill site that include,
No.
you read it.
She said explore the use of solar energy as a use of the, as a use of landfill site to create, and that funds
Revenues that could be used for
raised from that
solid
will be
waste and
used for solid
recycling
waste.
programs.
So it's the bullet as it's written, except we delete the first 5 or 6 words and put explore.
And take out generate energy production. It's specific to solar energy only.
Well, we're already generating electricity there, that's
Right.
gonna continue.
Right, solar energy.
So explore
Now, we're
solar.
asking for solar energy.
We're not generating electricity there though.
With the methane,
Well, I thought that they weren't running that right now.
looks like they'll be back.
Can I read this again?
Yeah, what is the emotion?
Explore solar energy production to generate safe revenue to fund solid waste and recycling programs at the landfill.
Explore solar. Generator.
Explore the use of solar energy production at the landfill
To
to,
fund,
to produce revenue that could help fund solid waste and recycling programs.
that's
Oh,
what
so
it
that's
is.
fine.
You're seconding it?
Yes,
All
I'll
right.
second it.
For any further discussion?
Okay.
Clarity?
I have a question. My concern about this motion is that it rules out other uses of the landfill for
No,
revenue.
It doesn't rule out
just
anything
says-
just yet.
It just says,
We're not
focus
done.
on solar.
Yeah.
It work
Okay.
on it. It doesn't say,
Any more?
What not to do.
Any more
Yeah,
It
discussion?
doesn't say what not to do, it just says specifically to do.
Yeah.
Focusing
Okay.
on one clear thing.
yeah,
Exploring.
Okay,
yeah.
because I see other revenue.
Any other discussion?
You can put the nuclear plant there.
Okay. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Putting in.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, unanimous. All right. Any more motions under these recommendations? Marion, did you want to, are you happy
So
with
the
what
rest
was
go
done?
away?
No, that's what people were deciding. These were recommendations that people proposed last
Individual.
week.
Right.
And so the owners of these recommendations need to decide if they want to bring them forward tonight.
Didn't seem like it was support.
I,
Yes, come on, speak up.
I said the Locust Street transfer station be transitioned to a reuse center, I would drop that.
Is there any, should we, I know that we've talked a lot about the Mass Highway site, and I know that, that there's currently a proposal before the Capital Improvements Committee to get funding for that, for acquisition of that site. I guess I'm wondering, should we somehow weigh in on that we encourage that, or, we're supportive of that? And we've said in the past, in our other recommendations, that we support the development of this reuse center, so I don't know, if we want to weigh in on that. It's self-evident.
Want to make a motion?
Just that the task force, supports the BPW's ongoing acquisition plan for the former Mass Highway site on Locust Street as a potential reuse slash transfer station slash reuse center.
Second?
Second?
Sure, second.
Mimi seconded first. Got that?
Yep.
Discussion?
Would we be better off putting that under the reuse category?
Sure, it could go back under there. if
I
you
think
want,
that's just a more
as
appropriate
opposed-
place to
Sure.
put it.
So, going to use the DOT side.
The Mass, yeah, DOT now, used to be Mass Highway.
Consider acquisition.
Aye.
Miriam?
Yes, I think Councilor Narkowitz had mentioned about submitting in separately. Mimi Odgers had brought up about the composting part of it. We did talk about that, and it was on one of my statements in regards to the composting, that it not be placed at the Glendale Road landfill.
Can we,
And I-
after we do this, you want to make a motion on that
Yes.
after we do
Okay.
this? Okay, put that in, because that,
Sure.
any more
So
discussion
is
on?
it fair to say, to use the term acquisition, I mean, that's what you're working towards?
Second.
Okay.
What, this is going to be out in left field just because I'm not comfortable voting on this. I mean, I was just thinking about other creative ways to deal with this cost issue with this whole project and whether it could be a turnkey private sector possibility. I don't know. I don't think, I really just been thinking about this and I'm more predisposed to abstain on this for that reason. I've just been thinking about, gee, this is such a big project, and I don't know.
Well, if the idea is to have, consolidated transfer station, or if you've seen the Smith College vision for how that could be turned into a more modern transfer station. Yeah, it's on our website. They did a study for us and looked at what a modern state-of-the-art transfer station is. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that it kind of goes back to when we talked about how we should be reevaluating things as time goes on. Since we don't know the impact of what Valley Recycling will have, we don't know different impacts that, while we can say that it's a nice thing to have back of the mind for that site, it may not be feasible for the city to invest in creating a very large-scale transfer station in the future, so, I don't know.
Any other comments on that motion? Discussion?
So could you read it again?
Supports the Board of Public Works ongoing acquisition of the former Mass Highway site on Locust Street as a potential transfer station reuse center.
So it's not really a recommendation.
Well, it's just, the state is supporting
I mean, it's fine.
the
If people feel that it's
Board of
not
Public
really
Works
appropriate, that's
continuing
like
to.
withdraw.
Well, I would like to see it, but maybe we could change it to a verb to begin with, begin the sentence with the verb explore, continue to explore.
My question is, that site can be used for many things. It doesn't just have to be a transfer station. It could be used, there's many opportunities and options for it. It just has to be cleaned up, is my understanding. So it's not like we'd be stuck with creating a transfer station and have the land. So.
Right, my understanding is that as the process has moved forward, originally, Mass Highway had wanted a more restrictive obligation as to how we would use it. And that's actually opening up so we can use it for any municipal purpose now. We could put a library there. I mean, at this point, it's almost like.
The state can't support the libraries we got.
A senior center.
So, I mean, I'm
We have a
happy
nice
to
one.
withdraw it if people feel that it's not relevant. I mean, I know we've had a lot of discussion about, we heard a lot about how we should try to have a single transfer station and not have two different transfer stations. Part of it's logistics of not having room to do everything we want to do at one of our existing ones. And so it was in that spirit. But, so.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
So it goes. That would go under the reuse center, that would go under the reuse heading, not as a separate heading, but it would go back to the reuse.
All right.
Any other?
Would you like to make your motion?
Yeah, I have great concerns, and I did bring that up about the neighborhood has had such serious odor problems around that site area of Glendale Road and the Park Hill Road area in West Stanton, that I really feel that we should not be bringing food in on composting. It's going to cause an odor problem, and I don't think we want any more problems. So that's what I'm asking.
So the motion, I'm sorry,
On the Glendale Road land.
The motion would be that the city would not,
Accept food composting programs at the Glendale Road site.
But you're talking more about like a large scale.
yeah,
Processing.
not a large scale processing.
Because
organics.
we've already voted to encourage them to allow people to
Collection.
drop off their compost. just
Right,
collection.
but not a large scale operation.
So we have
So-
a motion and a second.
I'm not clear about a little bit of composting is okay, a big amount's not okay, undefined.
A location where you're dropping it off, like over at Locust Street, you're taking it and then it's being driven to a location that's not within, people's backyards, where it would then be turned and treated and processed to become compost, and however compost is created. One of the benefits of the Valley Recycling is that it's in a completely industrialized area. I'm sure there's homes nearby, but you drive down there and, it's not like when I take a walk with my kids and there's kids playing in the backyard and in their backyard is the hill of the landfill. So I just think that the equity for this neighborhood and the people surrounding it is that you let them off for a while. Just
So
let them off.
So the differentiator basically is collection and transfer versus management of the food waste on the landfill.
Processing.
Right, processing the material on the property. So this committee has already voted to explore expanding the collection, like we have it at Locust Street to Glendale, which basically just, some totes that people can put stuff in there and then we haul it somewhere else, versus taking it in those totes and then dumping it on the landfill property somewhere and composting it with other
Would that
processing.
also include an anaerobic digester not being located on that site?
Well, that,
Is that-
I'm not making a motion.
Can I ask?
Well, before you do, would you explain what that means? Do you understand her question, and do you want her to explain more the limits of that, or?
Part of what we're doing is really encouraging composting. I would hope that however composting is handled in the city, that it's done responsibly and it's not going to impact the neighbors. I think we're really delving into areas that are not, they're just kind of micromanaging what's going on. I think I'm also really tired of these poor folks, so.
My understanding is they're asking that there not be treatment with ensuing smells from a bigger program there than simple collection and transfer. And I'm getting the sense that others might feel that that's tying the hands possibly of doing something.
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead.
What are the, this may be for Jim or Works people, is there a revenue possibility for doing composting on a large scale, of processing compost, of getting into the composting business? Is that a possibility? And it seems to me that we did this once, we tried doing this once at the Smith Vocational School land off First Pit Road a few years ago, perhaps 10, 15 years ago, and then it stopped. Was that a revenue bust, or?
It's a management issue.
It was a management issue?
Karen?
So, I mean, but is there a possibility, as we encourage composting, and we're collecting compost at both transfer stations, where does the compost go now that's being collected at Locust Street? And is this something that the city could make money at doing?
I don't think so.
Where does it go? Belchertown?
It goes to Belchertown?
So my question then is, the people who've already had to endure the landfill and the odors that go with that and the traffic and everything would have to continue to endure something else because there's a potential the city making money. So again, it goes back to the idea that it's not a shared sacrifice. There's a shared benefit, but not a shared sacrifice. So I think it's great that the city explore composting. I think that there's a lot of different areas in the city they can explore it. I'm saying that this one area, that we should recommend the city not explore.
Yeah, I hear your argument. What I'm wondering is, why would the city want to do composting? That's the question that I have. Why would the city want to do composting at the landfill? If the city wanted to do composting at the landfill?
Well, I guess first of all, there's a lot of enthusiasm for managing food waste within the city. Everybody in this task force is supporting collecting the material.
Yeah.
So where that material goes and how it's managed,
Okay.
it would seem that
So that's-
there may be an interest in managing it within the city. It may be on some farms you had mentioned in a previous meeting, potentially talking to farmers within the city bounds. That makes sense. Does it make sense to use the landfill site? I don't know, but obviously there's a motion here to preclude that from consideration.
So,
We might look at, I think the Stantec study actually looked at more of a regional type facility, an anaerobic digestion facility, which would have to be regional in nature in order to make the finances work on it if they worked at all. So you might look at a smaller composting type operation like they used to have at Smith Oak, where there was a windrow aerobic composting, sort of low technology style composting facility, versus a larger regional facility which would involve capital construction, an anaerobic digester type facility that folks would come
I'm on that section right now, page 466.
So do both those options create smells or not create smells, or? I want to get deeper into this so we can move on and, take a vote.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. If you've got a composting facility, can there be odors at times from those?
Either anaerobic or.
So,
A
to
report
answer my
somewhere
question
where a
is,
DEP rep, or I think it was a DEP rep said, and I can dig it out, but essentially that the biggest, issue to overcome is the fact that the odors are a problem.
Well, a properly managed site won't have odors, but you can never say that there won't be any odors.
right.
So, but, it's a valid, it's a good point.
The
Can I ask,
anaerobic digestion is inside
it goes
the
back to my
vessel. It's inside
question.
the vessel.
I just wanted to get clarity, and I don't mean to, but why would we want to?
There is
The
money to
reason
be
why
made.
we want to is because we are encouraging the act of composting and in fact collecting of the compost, and now this would perhaps be the third, what you do with all that composting we're now collecting, perhaps keeping within city boundaries.
But in keeping with this motion, we're not talking about not being able to do
Yeah.
composting, we're just
Not
saying.
saying, not at Glendale, I hear you.
We're just
Okay.
asking for
I'm
that
just
one area to
wondering,
be
why
excluded.
would we even
Okay.
want to do it?
That's fine.
Mark, if you want to collect it, the less distance you have to transport it, the less cost it would be to the city. And
Okay,
yes, if it were regional, as Jim was suggesting, it would be a moneymaker, yes. But those are two different issues.
and the location of which is a whole nother issue.
Dave, number 3.
I just wanted to ask maybe for a clarification about whether or not this included all leaf and yard waste as well?
No, I mean, this would be.
Why wouldn't it? That's composting that we're doing there right now, so the way I'm understanding your motion, that would include the leaf and yard waste that's currently being composted at the landfill. Is that what you're intending?
No, food organics is what we're talking
Okay,
about.
well then maybe there needs to be some clarification. to
Yeah,
the
maybe an
motion.
amendment.
Well,
Okay.
that's your amendment, right?
There's the amendment, food.
Not the, though, keeping the current yard waste.
Right.
Leaf and yard waste.
It's the food composting.
That's an interesting.
Any more discussion on this issue? Are there other sites in the city, before we go to a vote on this, that have been explored for a regional, or is that in the process with the PVPC study that's going on?
Well, the Glendale Road site was carried as a potential site in the PVPC study, just for the sake of carrying it in the study. At this point, we've been so focused on alternatives, what to do when the landfill closes, that the city hasn't been exploring other composting sites or farms even. I think we're fortunate that we've been able to implement a collection program, and that there's a facility that is able to take that and use it. So we're happy about that, but we haven't spent a lot of time exploring other venues or, whether or not the city should get into a composting program or not. There's a number of studies. The PVPC is the primary study that's going on right now. There's also a state level study that's looking at a potential ban on some food waste disposal that may spur construction of other private facilities. So there's a lot in the works. It hasn't been a focus of the department.
I think it's a really good question, because we are encouraging composting. We are expanding the collection of the composting to year-round, both transfer stations perhaps. We're encouraging that. And we want to think about our carbon footprint, and do we want to truck this compost to Belchertown once or twice a week, or however often that is, or do we want to keep it within our boundaries? I certainly hear your objections to being Glendale Road specific.
I think it should be that
Yeah.
we take in consideration the fact that this neighborhood has been impacted for the last
that's
40
right.
years.
Right.
And in that
So,
40 years, are people that owned
the
their homes
question-
before it was done. So my
Yes.
point is, it's been negatively impacted for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a strong argument for the fact that there's a shared
Yeah.
benefit, there should be a shared sacrifice in the city.
Right.
And for the past 40 years, that has not been the case.
Right.
Someone has called the question, so
Well,
my understanding, Robert's
there are
rules,
other
we go forward with the vote.
there are other places that this could happen.
That's what
Yeah.
I was trying to find.
Right. That's why I thought it was a great question.
And I'm not clear about the answer yet, so.
I'm not clear about the
I'm
answer
going
yet
to
either.
I'm going to call for a vote. I've been asked to call for a vote.
The motion's been changed slightly now. What does it say now?
Food. Food composting.
Not be treated.
So,
at Glendale.
there's a little more background about the site. I guess I didn't provide enough information to folks about the site. If you're a farm in the city, you can accept food waste and compost it just by getting a registration from the Department of Agriculture. If the city wanted to get into the composting business with a larger regional facility at a site that's not a farm, there'd be extensive Department of Environmental Protection permitting necessary in order to do that, including a site assignment application. So it's sort of a long process that you need to go through in order to do that anywhere in the city, including the landfill site. So.
It's my understanding though, that because it already has a site assignment, that's what that said in that PVPA study, that it was a beneficial place because it already had site assignment.
I think that needs to be reviewed.
The reuse, is it change of use?
That was
Change
it's a
of use
different,
permit.
There
Thank
are
you,
other
Jerry.
places.
it's a different use.
Well, so, okay, let's,
Isn't that right?
It's just a recommendation, it's not what the Board of Public Works has to adopt.
all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed to the motion? I'm sorry, those are 3, and there's 4 now, and abstaining. Motion fails.
That's okay, I expected it to, don't worry
read it forward too.
Don't worry.
There are
about it.
Bean Allard,
Yeah.
Bean Allard Farm.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about anything else.
Anything else?
They'll
on
take
this?
it.
I have a recommendation.
Go ahead, Mark.
Quickly. I'd like to recommend that the board work with the other bodies in the country, in the city, to increase the fines for illegal dumping. Currently, the fines for illegal dumping are between $25 and $100. I'm not sure who sets these fines, but I'd like the Board of Public Works to work with whoever does set those fines for increasing those fines. Given in light of what happened in Birch Pit Road this past weekend, or last week, I should say.
Okay, that's the motion, is to
So that's
increase the
in-
fines.
yeah.
And second?
They were increasing the meadows, but they're.
Okay.
but
Citywide.
The rest is.
Second, David Starr. Any more discussion? What are the fines right now?
Between $25 and $100.
Okay.
For litter- This is littering and illegal dumping. It's kind of, they're lumped into one. Littering and illegal dumping, the fines are between $25 and $100. I'm not saying I'm not going to propose what the fines should be, but that it should be increased.
Any more discussion?
I'll second that one.
David Starr seconded earlier. Any more discussion on that? Who said the city council by ordinance sets the fee fine? All those in
City
favor?
Council.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous? Vote in favor? Well, I would encourage the Board of Public Works to utilize best practices. Like to make the motion as written in bullet 2.
Second.
To give whatever, discussion, as you move forward in your decision-making, to utilize these practices here and allow the public to feel they were fairly heard. And
I think that the Board of Public Works already uses best practices. Maybe you might want to speak to this, but I think Terry does a great job in listening to the public, passing information out, making sure whoever's there speaks first. I think it's exemplary.
Can I ask, there was a best practices committee that came up with a list of what are best practices?
yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? And so that's what you're saying is utilize the best practices as was defined by the.
Yeah, and this summarizes them here, kind of.
I would agree with Rosemary that they conduct their meetings in a very open fashion and they try to engage and let people speak.
I hardly ever say bullshit.
I've seen Terry in action and thought he's done a good job. I do have concerns about the small meeting room. I don't know if you're always there, but we had problems when best practices met there in common meetings.
It's part of the rebuilding program.
Yeah.
You can have
For
a huge
$25
room,
million,
an
I think it
amphitheater.
was a better room.
I would just like to point out, though, that with the one issue that I guess I would have with the BPW, and I think other people have as well, is that it seems that when the public forums take place, that the discussions minds have been made up already. So it seems, not calling you out completely, but just, that's the impression, and it goes back to what I said originally, even with our task force. I think it's nice to get the public involved earlier on in forums, just to sort of get feedback for people's ideas. I think people have great ideas that come up, and it's at least food for thought every once in a while. So that's my suggestion.
Any more discussion on this one? It's not to say you're not doing, just keep it. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained? Okay, anything else? Yes.
I want to thank everybody. I think that we worked very well together. It was not an easy job. And tonight's our last night. And it's over. But I want to thank everybody.
We have one more agenda item.
Oh, what's that?
Which is how we deliver our recommendations.
Oh, okay, that's easy.
Should we write a report, or should we just have our recommendations as put together in our minutes suffice. It's kind of how I see our options.
I would like, whatever happens, we do not have another meeting.
Well, it seems like we could take this document and we did agree, I think,
We did
that
amend some language.
one was going to be rewritten.
How about,
But the rest were going to be, just delete the bullets that we've gotten rid of. And
Well, this is what there were four recommendations that we had come together as, we agreed that we had a consensus on before, and there were 5 that we actually voted on last week, and now there's probably 12 or 15 that we voted on tonight to accept, and so those 20 or so recommendations be bulleted as our list of recommendations, and that's our list of it.
I second that. Yeah, that's fine. Good.
So that was what they used.
So that was my motion.
I'll second it.
I second
Take
it.
those. Whatever that was. I
You're
seconded.
about the.
Whatever you said, I'm for.
And so,
How many fingers am I holding that?
Karen, do you want to work
It's a
with,
thumb.
can I make a recommendation that Karen work with Wendy and I to,
What do you mean?
Wendy and me, is that correct? Thank you.
It's like-
I always get tripped up. To review this list for accuracy based on our notes tonight, and that we put this together for the Board of Public Works before April 1st. Is that doable this week, that you and I review Wendy's, Karen's notes?
I think the whole committee has to have an opportunity to look at it.
We can't do that
We
because
can't
we
do
have
that.
a meeting.
Right, it's being a violation of open meeting. But if
Exactly.
it's Wendy
All
and
right,
I,
well, it'll be
as
posted on the website, and I encourage you to look at it.
And you can go to the meeting and disagree with
the
it.
draft. What I'm saying is that
We
Wendy
go
and
to every
I
Board of Public Works
review the
meeting
draft,
on it.
confirm that it meets our notes on tonight. So it's not all on Karen to write the report, but in fact, Wendy and I
I think
keeping
it
it below. Right, but Wendy and I will
We'll work with you.
review it, and then it'll be posted and delivered to the Board of Public Works before April 1st.
And we will email it to the committee as well.
Does
For
it
your
have to be,
information.
does it really have to be before April 1st? Can it be a couple of days later? I mean, how
It'd be nice
critical is
to meet our
that?
deadline.
Well, I was just
It's
gonna
up-
say
it's sort of
that
up
we
to
won't
them.
meet for
I
till
like
April
it.
13th.
the charge is given by the mayor.
I think we can do it. We can do it.
But if you're not gonna look at it in 4 days.
Okay, and we'll do that, we'll email it to everybody.
And then we'll email it to everybody, final. We will all have, you won't read anything except.
Any more motions? Yes.
To adjourn?
Yes, adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
staff.
Craig Odgers.
Yeah.
Thank you, public. Thank you, everybody.
Really, I can't thank the